we have a game which people want to play continuously time and time again or watch time and time again because the caliber of the matches and the skill that is being displayed is at such a nuanced and high level that is the enthralling part, right? We are the football of video games. I can say that without a doubt in my mind. Like, there is nothing that even comes close. And other games, they can come and they can have their piece, they can have their say, or we can talk about how Riot invented esports with League of Legends, but we all know what the truth of the matter is.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
Your game.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed. My fucking cable's stuck. Let me try and get the back because I was doing a good intro and now I said and now first 7 seconds I'm going to get demonetized. Dimitri's going to be mad. Anyway, the intro is meant to go something along these lines because I practiced it in the shower yesterday morning. It's the podcast where you motherfuckers in the comments are more concerned with my hair or lack thereof than the Counter-Strike content. Tonight, we are joined by none other than our resident motherfucking Dane. His name is Lucas, the fucking producer of the show. Let us hear it. Lucas, how you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah.
You good, Lucas?
Yeah.
You good? Yeah, you good.
Yeah.
You good. Yeah. I'm glad you're good,
I,
mate.
I almost fucked up your intro. I don't know how to do math, apparently.
But did it
That's
work?
great
The
intro,
work?
Yeah,
timing was
it worked.
perfect.
It was perfect.
I went glasses.
Like, at
I had
the
a hat,
end-
I had a mask.
At the end, it was perfect. But me...
Did they see me jump over the couch?
Yeah. Everything
Yeah,
was
I was
perfect.
watching you. We definitely saw you.
Okay. All right. Shit.
Good job.
Okay. Anyway,
Good job.
back on track. Anyway, I was gonna. There was more to the intro. It wasn't just Lucas. It wasn't just me jumping over a couch. There was more to it. There was fucking more to it. The best dress. No, not the best dressed. In his best dress. Fucking forgot it. Anyway, Prof, he's here. Prof, how you going, mate? You're in a fucking sanded jersey. I don't know what's going on, mate.
Yeah, man. I got a Christmas sweater. That's
Dude,
it.
wear it for everybody playing at home.
Yeah, I put it on because like Christmas, and I have a Christmas tree here. And on the Christmas tree, you can see some of my badges from events, including Blast, include like AAA that I got for no reason, even though I applied as media. Kind of funny how that works. Yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Kind of got a bit more mild. Like I had this like, this massive grand intro. There was something for
I know.
Striker, about, during the day he writes articles and during the night he's a superhero. He goes by Spreadsheet Man. There's going to be a bit more to it. And then I had something for Mr. Maniac, Mr. Mathieu here. It was going to be, is he French? Is he Swiss? Will they give you a fucking mama kiss? It's Maniac. And then that was going to be, I was working on it in the shower. So
Yeah.
did you like that one?
Yeah, I kind of did. Don't know about kissing anybody's mothers, though. That would be off air.
I think
keep our
what
secrets.
people watching at home should do is pause this video right now and get on your phone, go up to your mom and ask for a rating of Maniac. Would you make it
Actually,
for this
that would
guy?
be kind of cool.
And
yeah.
let us know in the comments what the reply is.
And what
You
I
could
can do
do.
better. And I think I present quite well. I didn't have a lot of problems with like in-laws in my life and like step parents. It's usually it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, some
You
of
usually
our-
make out with them and it's all fine, right?
some of our viewers here, especially the ones that keep talking about my fucking hair, their mums are probably old enough to be perfect for me. So, well, lads, keep talking shit. Give me a number. I'll give her a call. We'll see how we go, huh? Anyway, am I drunk? That's what a couple of people in chat said. I've had 2 beers. I've had 2 beers. Two little
chat
creature pale
levels,
ales.
Yeah, you're just not used to it anymore.
Blackout.
It hits
Exactly.
you really hard when you're not used to it. It's just
I'm fucking all off it, mate. I'm off my head right now. But seriously, you know, I just read people saying we need to raise money to get me a hair. I had a hair transplant, cunts. If you want to go listen to it, go listen to my other podcast. There's a whole episode called Molding About Balding. I've had a hair transplant. It takes a year to come back. You're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to deal with this. All right? I'm gonna have to deal with it. And then I look beautiful. Or maybe I won't. We're all beautiful. You lose your. Anyway, I'm not doing an episode about balding again. I've already fucking done one.
yeah, thank you for inviting me.
You're working.
We're staying on track.
You're working on the CS team schedule. Like we make a change and then need 6 to 12 months to see the effects of it. And until then, no comments, please. Don't shit on me. We're a
NIP
new
and
team.
Astralis.
We're a new team.
Well, let's apologize again to Dimitri, sorry, and to all of you at home who are obviously extremely religious this time of year and have been upset by the swearing, which I've conducted at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I also read some comments about people complaining about the time. Last time round, we did one at 11 o'clock at night. This time round, we're doing one at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And I saw this one comment, and it read, one guy wake up early versus thousands of people stay up late. I was up at 5:30 in the morning to do a podcast. Like, what do you want from me? What do you actually want from me?
And
I
we
don't know
actually would have done it in this time frame, but Hooksy couldn't do it. So we actually had to do it late because of him.
So there you go. So now, like, this is where we're bang on 9 p.m. in Perth at least, 2 p.m. for you guys. It kind of works for everybody
It's
playing
a
at
good
home.
time zone.
And,
Maniac needs a headband. What do you think about that?
Headband.
Like a
Headband.
Jimi Hendrix
Oh,
one?
yeah, I know. Like when the hair
tennis?
comes. Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know.
what's his name?
My
Federer.
line here would. I don't know how the line here would work with the headband. I could try. I'm really open to solution, open-minded guy as a whole. I could try the headband.
Try,
Solution oriented.
The sporting one. Who would have known? Poor Chad having to wake up at a normal working person schedule for one Sag. 5:30 in the morning is not a normal working person schedule. I was a normal work. No, I wasn't. I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not reading the comments anymore. Anyway, guys, this is the final episode of 2022, and Striker isn't here, as mentioned. He's not feeling too well. Hopefully, if he's watching the show, it'll be making him feel a bit better. But there's one thing that I have to do here, and this is how we keep the wheels of the bus going round and round as I continue to listen to kids' music, including the Wiggles, while I entertain my niece. But we got to thank our sponsors. Xtrfy is going to make you extra fly. If you need peripherals, mouse pad, keyboard, all that good stuff, you know where to find it. And of course, well, we got BitSkins. You know, you want a Dragon Law? Well, it's pretty goddamn expensive, but if you're looking for one, I'd head over to BitSkins and check out the marketplace. So it's Christmas time. Treat yourself. New Year's soon. New you, new me, new year, new fucking skins. I don't know. It's not a tagline. It's like I just said. And of course, N1Bet, remember to gamble responsibly. It's important to be responsible. No matter what walk of life. That's why I've only had 2 beers, because if I had 3, I'd be asleep on the couch right now, and you all wouldn't be having my dulcet tones pumped into your ears live and direct on twitch.tv/HLTV.org. Anyway, let's get this one underway. Should we start with the N1 moment, Lucas? Are you ready? Do you need it? Do you need it? Okay,
No,
let's start with this. You don't need time, so we're gonna whack on the N1 moment.
This
and,
was before he had 2 beers, or
no, this was after. This was definitely after. If it was before, I would have straight legs while doing the cartwheel. This was bent legs during the cartwheel. So anyway, guys, I can only go left hand into right side of the cartwheel. I can't go right hand. I'm still practicing, and my handstand is coming along nicely as well. But if you guys want to show me your cartwheels, make sure that you go and record them. Now that's 2 p.m. in Europe for most of you right now. Go record your cartwheels. Do it on some lawn, I'd recommend, not on the bitumen or on the concrete. And send it to me on Twitter. I will grade them. My mum can get involved on the Twitter sphere as well. She's a dance teacher. She can let you know how shit you are. But that's a cartwheel. All right, guys, cool. That's the N1 moment brought to you by N1Bet. Gamble responsibly. Let's get on with the show. There's no ad break here. This is,
No, we just go.
Yeah, we just go. Okay. So anyway, I introduced Lucas. He's the producer. Prof is here. Striker's not. And Maniac joining us. Now, gentlemen, tonight we have a task ahead of us. It's quite a difficult task. It's a subjective task. It's a task that nobody really wanted to be tasked with but the three of us will endeavor to climb this Mount Everest of deciding what our, now it's going to be personal preference, which is subjective here, some of our favorite, least favorite, disappointing, all of the above underscored moments throughout the year 2022. And I'm sitting there today. I got my notebook out. I'm sitting there. I'm just chilling out under the patio, having a bit of a think. I can see the bits and bobs that Prof's given me. And Prof, it's not easy to go back and look at an entire year of Counter-Strike that is unfolding in front of us here, mate. So we have quite the task, yes?
Yeah, I mean, it would be, I feel like it would be maybe not harder, but be more boring if we just went like objectively what was the best match. That would kind of suck all of the joy out of it. People just say, like, oh, it's obviously the Cologne grand final, blah blah. And I think that's lame. And I think that everything, wherever there's consensus, that's kind of lame. What's the fun in that? So let's just like bring out like some of the matches or players or whatever that we kind of vibed with in the moment that we enjoyed, right? So I think that's the angle we want to go with, and then people can start talking in the comments, and yeah, just have a nice time, think about what they enjoyed instead of just being like, oh, it's obviously simple, or whatever, ZywOo, whatever. I don't know.
It's also a good time to reflect on where we're at in Counter-Strike as well, right? To sit here and look at, because look, for the three of us, we've been doing this for a decent chunk of time now. I would say a big portion of our lives have been dedicated to this game, and year after year, we get to see the evolution of where we're at, Matthew. And 2022, I said the Prof, it has been a long year, but it's been, I don't know how you feel. We'll get to an official rating a little bit later on, but as you reflect, as we're nearing ever closer to New Year's, it feels like it's been a good year.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been a good year because it had multiple phases throughout of it, right? I think you had, the first bit was the phase Navi kind of fight, and then the question was just who was going to be in between the two. But then past the summer break, it went a little bit out of control, right? And then you had no idea what was really going on. I think it left a whole lot of space for different narratives to come in, for surprises to come in. We've had teams winning trophies. I mean, obviously we're going to talk about it, but the Outsiders winning the major, the Heroic winning in Copenhagen, like things that we really didn't expect. And I like both of it. Honestly, I like when you have strong favorites that kind of barrel towards an incredible story. And I like when it's wide open and everybody has to be on their toes and you can be caught off guard by a team. So personally, I think it was a great year of Counter-Strike. I know the world in general is going to shit, but I think Counter-Strike provided the best entertainment it could in this context. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's been a year, actually. I feel like 2022 was 10 years because we've had so many events, so many stories, things changing. So when you guys told me, or when I realized this was going to be a recap of 2022, I just realized I don't remember the last 3 months past that. That's it.
Yeah.
There's so much in my head when it comes to CS. I think my brain had to just format stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Like you're looking at these different categories that we're going to tackle here today, and there's a lot of stuff, and it doesn't even feel like there are that many tier 1 events when you consider previously pre-COVID. I think we're going to have PC and AC pre-COVID and after COVID, which will be our new Jesus Christ, topical with Christmas time. But you look at the events we had before and how every single week we were in a different country, in a different arena, putting on a different level of event. And now obviously there's a little bit more time to reflect between each event. There's different events of different scales. We're obviously in a different time right now, Prof, but it's still delivering. Well, I don't know. It's hard because we are living through the evolution of Counter-Strike, and it's difficult to look back in time and compare. It's difficult even in the current time to sit here and go, yeah, we're in a good place or we're not in a good place, because we're kind of just living in the now.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a transitionary, or almost like the transition has almost finished already. Maybe last year was that kind of a weird year where also we're going from online to LAN and then implementing all of these kind of franchisee leagues, partner leagues, whatever you want to call them. And now I think this year we kind of saw the effect of it in where it's going in terms of obviously like EPL 2 seasons being pretty long, and then the blast seasons with the group stages being long. And that just takes away from how many tournaments we can have. And essentially, aside from like the Pinnacle tournament in the first half of the year and the Lisa tournament in Finland, like these are the only 2 tournaments I feel like this year that happened outside of like ESL Blast and the major circuit, right? That's the only thing that had like really, that was a LAN with really good competition, and there was like the Roulette online tournament, which I can't really compare to anything else, right? And that's it is puts us in a weird position in terms of like deciding, some of the best player, best team, and some of these things, like because you don't really have that many tournaments to base things off. Thankfully, I guess at least some of them are kind of clear cut, but you could see like next year it might be pretty difficult, seeing like a team like Cloud9 doesn't have some of the slots and then they can't play, and this is all kind of it's a weird situation. How do you value some of the things? How do you rank what team is better when some teams don't get the same opportunities, even though they are on the same level, definitely in a competitive aspect, right?
You raise an interesting point here, and I would love to get Matthew's opinion on this, because this is something I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to talk about in future episodes here, Prof. But Prof says fewer tournaments, and in terms of what they mean, Matthew, do you think that just puts more gravitas on each tier one scale of event for these teams to perform, because it's not every second week that you're playing in an event like that now in the current iteration of the formats of Counter-Strike tournaments, that it's not a tournament isn't anymore of it's not we'll get the next one, right? Does it feel like that now? It's like, yeah, we have to get this one, or it's not we have to, but it's important, and how we perform here, people are going to talk about how we performed here, and it's going to have weight.
Yeah, and I think it's how it should be. I mean, I come from a family of sport, like football and tennis, and this is how I always envision sport or a discipline like that. There are moments that culminates, and there are moments that matter more than others, and I like that. I like that we get, like what Prof was talking about, the whole quite lengthy Pro League seasons, and then also the groups of Blast, because these are moments where you kind of get the baseline, and very objectively, not everybody has to perform at 200%, but you still kind of get the temperature vibe on how teams are working and what players are in place or not, what kind of trouble you might see. You kind of see some of the lines of the stories that are going to unfold. But then you have these moments, like you have 8, 9, 10 events throughout the year, and we are going to value a team compared to their ability to play good in these moments. I couldn't care less if you're really good at Pro League, if you show up the next event and you disappear, right? And I think that's how it should be, and that's how we have to value it. And I also think that we should not always be looking at knowing right here, right now, who is the best team in this very minute, but more like who is overall winning the moments that matter, right? That's the whole phase conversation. Like people who say, "Oh, phase massive fall off. Oh my God, they should change one." I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you see how they've been playing at the end of the year? What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Really? They're still placing high all the times, aside from the major. So that to me is how I envision the game. I want moments that matter more than others. That is it. And if someone fucks up at that time and they fail, well, I'm not just going to say minus X plus X was Z, but that's going to be a fail. That is it. You have failed this moment. You can bounce back, but there's not just denying it because it's blended in a sea of other tournaments.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I'm curious to see what blossoms from this point going forward. Prof, you obviously mentioned these different tournaments, like Pinnacle Cup at their tournament. We obviously know the CTC champ. Sorry, what is it?
TCT.
The champions. Is it CTC?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the champion, yeah. But these type of tournaments will start to kind of notch out their place in the CCT. Sorry, not CTC. That's the two beers talking, gentlemen. But this is the scenario we find ourselves in, where you look at the calendar. Obviously, if you look from top to bottom in terms of where we're talking open tournaments to tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, as you work your way up the rungs, the blockbuster tournaments, the S tier events, right? There's definitely a smorgasbord available to people. And the majority of viewers at home want to be watching, other than our hardcore viewers who are here tonight watching our podcast, want to watch the tier 1 events, right? You obviously get overlap. People like watching the tier 2, people like keeping the finger on the pulse. Some people just fucking love Counter-Strike, like Peta, right? He's over here at HLTV. He's probably watching every single game. He doesn't tweet a whole lot these days. Doesn't say a whole lot at all. I'm sure he's just injecting Counter-Strike into his veins every single day of the week. But we're looking in a position where, you know, I get that people don't like the fact that ESL and Blast can have the lion's share of what's going on, and that's fair enough. That's your prerogative to have that opinion if you wish to. But it feels like there is room the ability for these other tournaments to start to flourish, especially with Blast and ESO having locked away a lot of these bigger names. And I know the bigger names are what draws a lot of viewers, but if you continue to get more like Gamer Legions, Cloud9's not locked away to anybody at the moment. Like, these are the names, and they're coming and playing your other events. Then you're going to have the eyeballs, and there's the ability for other people to start to notch out their place if they can, right? And that's the thing. I feel like you have to put up a quality level of event, not only for the viewer at home, but for the teams to want to attend in terms of prize money, the conditions they looked after, the type of practice facilities, the flights that are provided, and every single thing along those lines. Because that's the difference of what ESO and Blast have been able to do. Like, they have their partnership agreements with these teams, but it doesn't just come with, hey, we just shake hands and you come play our fucking events. It comes with, yeah, we're going to give you some money, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. 7 people, 8 people. There's differences as to why people are at these events.
Let's just do the rating of the scene right now, then, because we're already in this conversation. So like 0 to 8, where would you guys put it right now?
This was the only thing when I was today just jotting down notes that I left blank as far as the categories that you'd provided to us, because it's so, like, from my perspective as somebody working the events and going from event to event to event, or, you know, now that I'm not working as much, I'm not from a viewer perspective, right? This is the qualm that I have, right? And I feel like a lot of it probably should be measured from the viewer perspective, as opposed to the player perspective, as opposed to the journalist perspective, as opposed to the talent perspective, because we have a different guise on all of this, right? But as far as things are trending right now, I don't know. I'm quite happy with the scale and level of events that we have. And I think if the scene was in a bad place, then Valve would do something about it to shake it up, to kind of change things up. And I don't feel like we're in a Dota situation where they're having issues with their DPC or whatever. I don't know what, if I had to pick, like, if we had to sit here, because if we're going to rank it at a 0 out of 8, well, then if we're going to rank it low, we have to come up with issues. So
yeah,
what would the biggest issues right now be? I don't know.
I was going to be relatively positive as well, but I think you're right in the sense that everybody just would rate that relative to their experience of it and how they actually consume the product. For me, one of the key factors is how excited have I been at different events, right? How many stories have taken me by the guts and really like put me through like turmoils of emotions watching it happen. That's how I measure the success of the discipline. And I think this year had plenty of moments like these, plenty of moments that really swept me off my feet and got me super involved. So I think it's just, for me, it's a solid like 7. I'm not going to say 8 out of 8 because obviously it's not perfect, but like it's really solid. What Counter-Strike has provided this year has been really solid in terms of the quality of game we've had, the different stories we've had, the trajectories of some players. Hell, and I say that even when Vitality sucked. So I mean, that really means I was happy.
I mean, that's
game.
also something to get invested in. It's not like it's not a nice ending to a story. It's more like a Greek tragedy. So, but that's also it's a very popular
beauty to
form,
it too. Beauty
right?
to sadness.
Yeah.
I
think for me, I was thinking like it's like a 5, 6, and mostly not because of like how the tier 1 scene looks or the final product. I feel like that's pretty good. Of course, like production wise, things can always be better, blah, blah. Maybe some formats are not the best, but some things are changing for next year. I think where the issues are mostly are on that like tier 2 and the lead up to the tier 1 in terms of like ESL changing dates for their shit again next year, like changing stuff all the fucking time, which is kind of last minute. I feel like that's just not the way things should be, right? You don't really have like that kind of consistency in giving the grassroots a chance to grow, so we could have like a good next generation, have like a deeper talent pool for the majors of teams, organizations, like everyone. So that's why I feel like there is a bit of things that are lacking, and of course the whole fucking ESIC, CSPPA, all of these things that have been just like complete failures, I would say, so far. So I feel like that's also not the best part. But yeah, I think on the tier 1 and in terms of like what the tournaments were like this year, I think it was pretty good. It was pretty amazing.
I think the quality Like as you've mentioned, there's things that are lacking in terms of maybe production. But I think one of the things, and we tend to, as a community, lack perspective from time to time, is how far we've come in a short amount of time. And that isn't to let us off the hook in terms of shortcomings that have confronted us this year, but it's to help us frame just how far Counter-Strike has come in 20 years. And when you compare that to other esport titles that have definitely come and gone over those years, we're in the best position. And that's not me just giving myself a bit of self-fellatio here. That
but
is
also that.
But if you take a little bit of a look, right, if you step back and you frame it and you look at the amount like of money that a lot of professional players are getting paid, for example, if we take a look at the caliber of the events that are being run, the different events that are being run across the course of a calendar year, the fact that our game developer, right, even though they're hands off and a lot of people are complaining, where's my fucking operation? In terms of the game itself, we have an extremely quality product that doesn't require agents being updated or, hero pools being changed or things like that to keep the attention. We have a game which people want to play continuously time and time again or watch time and time again because the caliber of the matches and the skill that is being displayed is at such a nuanced and high level that is the enthralling part, right? We are the football of video games. I can say that without a doubt in my mind. Like, there is nothing that even comes close. And other games, they can come and they can have their piece, they can have their say, or we can talk about how Riot invented esports with League of Legends, but we all know what the truth of the matter is, right? And we were talking before we just started, Prof, you asked Matthew if he had played 1.6, right? And we're going back now, well, not just a decade, we're going back much further than that. And that's obviously why people like me are bolding, because we're getting old, right? The game is aging and we have some maturity and things are chopping and changing. And it's no longer just a game for, 18 to 25-year-olds. This is something that is involved by a larger group of people. So as far as I'm concerned, look, I don't want to give it a 0 out of 8 or an 8 out of 8. No bait. This is late. No. Anyway, fuck it. You guys get the means. You're on the
What
forums.
is that? What is the number? Give us the number.
Look.
You hate numbers.
I think because no one in nothing or no one in anything is perfect. So there's no way I'd give it an 8 out of 8, right? But a 6.5 or a 7 or something along those lines, right? Because the thing is, we're still trending up, right? Whether it's gradual or whether it's steep, we are still trending upwards.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So
it doesn't feel like an end of the world. Oh, everything's falling apart kind of situation. Like it's good.
And no matter how certain, parties want to try and paint things in such a negative light, people, the viewers, the people who are tuning in right now, the people who play the game, well, we vote with our time and our attention. And quite clearly, when you look at the different metrics of how we're able to record said attention, we continue to either grow or stay at a level that is healthy, extremely healthy. So, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with how things are.
I think, I think it's also, like you talk about like the parties that may have like a more negative outlook, they themselves, I think they serve a purpose, right? I think it's important to pinpoint what has to change. And sometimes I can be personally like blind to these kind of issues that happens here and there. I don't pretend to have the full outlook, but I think something that you and I, Chad, definitely have, maybe Prof in a lesser way, but is that Counter-Strike was already almost all my life when it gave me nothing.
Sure.
And that's a really long time ago. And the only thing I was getting out of it is the pleasure of the game. And that was it. And every once in a while, like we were talking about before the show with Naya, I was doing some cyber tourism because I was going to an event with some Switzerland team. I was getting absolutely my ass handed to me. And then I was going back home, right? But that in itself was
like
already
a good trip.
Yeah, it was a good trip. Like, I discovered the US first time thanks to Counter-Strike. But now look at where we are at. So I feel like maybe I'm just positively biased, like the journey that we've been on and what Counter-Strike has been able to establish itself in. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, it is kind of crazy to me that we've become this like intergenerational established discipline. And sure, there are things that needs to be changed. And would it be production point of view or from a league operation point of view? I don't even start me on ESIC and all the fuckery that's happening. But overall, the journey of the last 15 years, like, it's insane. Like, it is insane. And I think the state right now is good. And I also don't see an asteroid coming anytime soon, but I might be blind to it. But I cannot take that perspective.
Yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see what the future holds. That's the case with everything, and people always want more. We are human beings after all. But without further ado, let's get underway with some of these categories here that Prof has curated us for this evening. Now, to kick things off, Prof, you decided to go with the favorite match of 2022. Now, obviously, we kicked the year off with Katowice. Well, we had the Blast groups first and foremost, but in terms of the events which were culminating in a final, I guess that's where we're especially with this category and our next being favorite event, where we're going to be looking to more of the bigger scale events here because it's the highest stakes that are online. But I would love to start with, look, I've made a list, but I would love to hear everybody's opinion first, and then we can throw some of these bits and bobs in towards that list. So, Prof, do you want to kick us off here with favorite match?
Okay, I have 3 that I noted down, and none of them are big finals. Just to have like a bit
I'll see how we match here.
So, okay, let's start with the most ridiculous one, but I'm gonna say Saw Outsiders from the RMR.
I remember.
Oh,
This for me was pretty hype. It's also as we said, it's personal. So it's also when I was doing the desk the day before or 2 days, me and Maniac did the Saw 4s one, and we went super deep into this, and you casted that, I think. Went super deep, finding all this trivia, all this bullshit. I was casting
that. No. Or maybe the one before. Sorry.
Yeah, and then Saw beat 4s. Okay, then they went to this last game against Outsiders, and it was exciting because of the whole storyline about these Portuguese guys that were pretty old and having their first chance to get to a major in CSGO. And it all came down to that fucking last millisecond no scope kill defuse from Jame that then propelled them to be a major team, qualify for the next major, eventually win the major, right? And these kind of stories, these micro moments, deciding such big things, for me, it's always interesting to kind of think, oh, imagine if that didn't go that way. If Saw qualified for the major, would Outsiders have gone through different changes? Would they even exist in the form they exist now? So that for me was kind of it was a very enjoyable match to witness.
Yeah,
I remember watching it in the taxi. I was in an Uber watching a game. I don't know where we were going, to some restaurant or whatever. We were watching in the taxi, and I remember screaming when I realized that he actually touched it. So that was a good pick, Prof. Shout out to you. It was a good pick.
I have 2 more. Do you want me to just run through them?
Yeah, may as well. Yeah.
Okay. So two others are both Cloud9 games that I remember.
Imperial, surely.
So one of them is Cloud9 Imperial from Rio, because that was. But before that, I had the Cloud9 phase from IM Dallas. Which for me was it was kind of a defining moment for them to be something. But then turned out it didn't really mean much. But at the time, it felt like, this is it. And then the grand final that they won, that was against Ents, if I remember correctly. That was not even that big of a deal, right? It was, that was the Exile against FaZe, his connector play and all of this bullshit. It was an insane game from Cloud9. And then they had that whole weird period, and then the rematch against Imperial in Rio to eliminate them. It was that was it was just a great storyline culminating, and I was convinced that Cloud9 were going to go on and at least reach the fucking final of the major, but it didn't really pan out in the end.
Disappointed yet again.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got some. So we got a couple of Cloud9 appearances. There was Saw versus Outsiders, which is definitely an outsider pick here. Pardon the pun. That one I don't think would be on anyone's radar. My list. I have a couple of big ones on here. I really enjoyed the FaZe versus Spirit matchup from the Antwerp major. That Harry and Hugo casted. I thought that was an absolute fucking banger of a game. I just think that the two teams and the type of Counter-Strike they play and the fact that was just such a barn burner of a matchup was fantastic. I also think that Furia versus Na'Vi at the Rio major, that was obviously due to the storyline and everything that was unfolding in that game right there, it was quite exciting. FaZe versus Bad News Eagles at Rio as well, just because of the gravitas of FaZe getting knocked out in that position to the Bad News Eagles, and another very storyline driven matchup there. But then a bit more, I think 2 of the best grand finals of the year. One was the Kato grand final. That was the opener as far as grand finals go. That was G2 versus FaZe. I thought that was a really, obviously we had FaZe with the whole stand-in situation and they had their whole scenario, but it was entertaining Counter-Strike. And then, of course, the Cologne grand final. And if I had to pick one to be at the tippy top of my list, it would have been the Cologne Grand Final, just because I think that is that was an honor and an absolute pleasure to be able to commentate what I think is probably one of the best games of Counter-Strike of all time. So there were a couple of my hot picks right there. I don't know if any of those stand out to you, Matthew.
Yeah, you basically have the three that I would have put forth. I think what I relate to the most is when, so people might not know that, right? But when we work an event, we're usually staying in the green room, and then we are called to go to the desk when the game is getting close to an end, because usually after the interview, it goes straight to us. So I usually watch the end of a game in the arena, if we're lucky enough to have the desk in the arena. And some of the games you have mentioned have like it changed me almost from watching it from the arena and like feeding off the energy and kind of the apotheosis of what was happening, some of the catharsis even. So obviously the FaZe Navi game, I mean, I don't think we could have asked for any other ending to this incredible best of 5 with all the stories that was unfolding. The FaZe spirit for the almost, because that for me that's the story of almost, right? And then the Navi Furia game, because I had to leave the arena after map 1. I couldn't hear myself think. It was actually hurting. I think I had to protect myself. So yeah, definitely FaZe Navi has to be the most incredible grand final that I've ever seen. And I'm gonna give a little tidbit, a little star on the side to the heroic win in Copenhagen against FaZe. I think there was quite a lot riding to it as well, and the whole heroic, finally getting the support of the home crowd here in Copenhagen and finally being able to get that trophy. I think I'll put it up there in my list. But yeah, I don't believe FaZe Navi can be touched. I think it is the game of the year.
Prof, what would you put? Like, obviously, I guess as you mentioned to kick this off, this is a bit more of a subjective list.
That's definitely the Cologne game, the Cologne Grand Final. I also think like the Navi Furia one was special just because of like the intensity of that game, and as you said, it was insanely loud. Like I got some of the earplugs things. Without them, I could not stand in there for more than like 5 minutes. It was it was kind of crazy. So that was like, it was definitely unique in its among any other game, right? That no other game in the year had that energy in an arena. It was unreplicable. But yeah, I think we really got really cool like kind of storylines and grand finals through this year. Like the heroic thing, G2 with Hooksy, we got that, and Cloud9 winning in Dallas, like kind of home soil. So a lot of the things kind of almost scripted, some would say, came through.
Well, it felt like everybody got a little bit of something this year, didn't they? Like that's definitely within the second half of the year where there was a few more charitable donations being handed out. It wasn't just that dominance that we're used to. But I had Striker, who is sick, if you've just joined us at home, submit his homework. So for match of the year, he's gone with the Cologne final. So there you go, Striker. He's getting his little chip in here as well. Should we jump forward into favorite event here, gentlemen? Okay, look at this. Well, aren't we civil here this evening, aren't we? So, event of the year. Now, this is I've listed five. I've listed five events here, and I think the top of the pop events. Obviously, we had the Copenhagen, the Blast Fall Final. I put Cologne on the list. I put Katowice on the list. I put Antwerp on the list. And I guess what? I've even put Rio on the list, but I put a little asterisk right here next to Rio, where we're talking about stages 1 and 2. Obviously, we know how the playoffs were marred by perception from home, which is a big part of the event, right? We would be lying to ourselves if we were to say that the people at home maybe didn't have the same experience as the people in the arena, and that's okay. That is definitely fine that the people at home had a different experience to the people of the arena. That's just the nature of the beast sometimes. But Rio being a major, I think I'd be remiss of me not to include it as in a kind of top 5 list.
In the short list somewhere there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if we were to try and pick one here, maybe we'll start with you, Matthew. And again, I just want to make sure everyone at home, right, is aware here that we're doing this on a bit more of a personal basis. So if Matthew comes out here and says, fucking, he loved Dallas, let him love Dallas, everybody, all right?
Okay. So I guess I would like to rephrase the answer by it's going to be a very holistic answer, not just like the Counter-Strike that had delivered and which event is best, but just the event as a whole, as experienced by me, myself, and I. I think IEM Cologne was quite fantastic, personally. I think having everybody in the super location we were having, there's so many moments we've spent with the players there. And then, of course, in Lanxess with the culmination that we've just talked about. I Am Cologne delivered pretty much everything that I was hoping for in terms of the 2 weeks of Counter-Strike. I think also from an editorial standpoint, I think we put chucked enough effort into trying to build some of these storylines. And this was really an event where I felt like we, and I say we, the capital W as a broadcast, did a good job at like putting stories out there and trying to paint the heroes and their past. So I Am Cologne pretty much had everything. Also a little tidbit, I actually came with my car, which made my life really cool. So I could just drive around Cologne, and I kid you not, this is actually life-changing. You can just drive to an event and then you can go to the studio. I was pumping the music. We were always like a bunch of like broadcast talents in the car going there. I don't know, the whole event for me felt extremely wholesome. And I remember we tried a whole bunch of things with the broadcasters. We had all these different positions. We were doing interviews with the players most of the times. And from a very broad and holistic approach, I think Cologne was the best event I've lived through this year. And I have to give a bit of a tip to the Antwerp major playoffs, particularly when you consider how many issues were put forth in Stockholm, right? I think the gap or the improvement from Stockholm to Antwerp were massive, and Antwerp delivered way more than Stockholm. And I think the playoffs were bonkers, and it was an honor to be part of it. So I'd put Cologne and I'd put Antwerp probably at the top of my list.
It's Cologne as well, right? Not only did we get the final, which you already touched on, being an absolute banger of itself, the event overall, like from start to finish, it didn't feel like we were lacking at any portion of the event for the viewer, for the player, for us on the working side of things as well. But also, it was the last event before the break, which is unusual for us to get everything meeting at this perfect crescendo to everyone. Okay, now, let's actually go and take a couple of weeks' time, because everybody got their fill. Everybody got everything that they were looking for with that one. So, and I think I would probably go with a similar, Cologne, Antwerp. Then maybe I would throw Kato in there, but I wasn't in Cologne. I wasn't in Copenhagen, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to measure that one up, because I didn't get to experience the vibe and the atmosphere. But from the times that I've been to Copenhagen previously, it's always an event that does tend to deliver. So mine has the bias.
Copenhagen suffered a bit from the post-major vibes.
Okay.
Like I feel like in terms of like even players and teams that were there, it didn't feel like all of them were 100%. Which took away some of the shine for me. And I'd say not the same degree, because Cologne is a bigger event, and there was a bigger gap,
right?
Very big of a gap between that and Antwerp. But I think Antwerp was kind of the big clash between Navi and FaZe, and that was like, it was more important at the end of the day. That's why I edge it slightly to Antwerp, and especially because I was pretty surprised by the crowd in Antwerp. I didn't expect that many people to show up for the major in a location that we didn't have before. I wasn't really expecting, I don't know. I think that was maybe maybe not the biggest crowd, but it felt like the best crowd in terms of sitting in the arena, aside from that one game of Fury and Navi, right? If you look at the whole playoffs, it was like pretty packed all the time. Even the first games were pretty nice. And by the end of the tournament, it was like a non-biased crowd. So it wasn't as weird as in Rio when like Navi wins around and you don't hear anything. It was like actively like very, very exciting. So just like gave us a great playoff games. The broadcast, as you know, I mean, PGL doesn't really match up with like ESL and Blast with a lot of the content and stuff, but it was a pretty decent broadcast all in all. Like they fixed a lot of the issues that were the issues. Did they add like on top of it? Not really. Like the extra content wasn't really there. Did we explore all of the like the stories of some of the players like that were coming through? I don't think so. Like there could have been more that was done there, but overall it wasn't bad in that direction.
But
that's why for me, my favorite event of the year
was Antwerp. But what you point out there is, I think, the key, and this is the key that I think that a lot of people are quick to overlook, is the quality of the matches determine realistically the ever lasting taste of the event, unless the event meant that the games couldn't be broadcast and people didn't have an opportunity to be able to watch those matches. But realistically, if the game's an absolute fucking banger, it's an absolute banger regardless of the way that people are watching. And yeah, look, it's no secret that PGL don't offer up the same level of content as what a Blaster and ESL would do across the course of their broadcast. But in terms of being able to display the matches for everybody to watch at home, they hit the nail on the head in the exact same way. So that at the end of the day, and this is the same thing like when I see people talking about matches being casted and stuff, and oh my God, these guys are such sick casters. Like, we are all, as commentators and analysts and everything, at the mercy of the quality of the match, right? You can definitely elevate a match with what you do as your job, but if the match is an absolute fucking stinker, you know, there's an old saying goes, you can't put lipstick on a fucking pig, right? So that's just the end of the day right there. And yeah, look, and I know that there's definitely some comments in the chat right now and people talking about Rio overall. And I mentioned this just previously. For the people on site in Rio working the event, it was a good event, right? I don't want to talk for Matthew or anybody else who was there. But from my perspective, the event itself on site was a good event. Are there things that I wish were better? Yeah, I wish when I rocked in to do my quarterfinal matchup that there were more spectators in the arena, right?
Yeah.
But overall, from start to finish, there's definitely pitfalls. But from my perspective, it was a good event. From the viewer perspective at home and going back and watching and seeing the clear contrast in terms of the crowd interaction from one to the other, that's a massive drop off. And that's exactly why I can sympathize with the viewer at home who had a difficult time stomaching that event. And there were definitely some decisions that ESL made across the course of that journey that I think were missteps, were things which were oversights or things that were a little bit short of maybe if they weren't in Brazil, right, that they maybe wouldn't have made. So look, I get it. I definitely get it, right? I'm not resistant to. I'm not going to say the viewer at home was wrong by any means. They were the viewer at home, but I can see why people had different experiences of that, and of course it will be tarnished one way or another. And again, returning to that match point, the quality of games and the teams that performed in Rio were not the same teams that were going to deliver the level of hype that the other events did. So with all of these culminating factors, we found ourselves in a bit of a position that is leaving a bad taste in the mouth for Rio, unfortunately, which is a shame. Is a shame. So that sucks. But it's the truth of the matter, and I don't know how else you can get around it. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
A couple of different match wins. Imagine like, I don't know. Okay, we get like a Furia gets to the grand final, and then on the other side we have at least Cloud9. You already have a much more exciting tournament than you had this way. So
sure,
it is what it is.
And let me just bring it up again here for everybody playing at home. Mr. Striker, he has put Antwerp as his event of the year. Thank you very much, Striker. All right. Anyone else have anything else they would like to say on favorite event for 2022?
No.
Goodie.
Prof always deriding Cloud9.
Yeah,
Facts.
fucking Prof, man. Come on, man.
I love those comments.
But do you want to ride their dicks right now with biggest surprise, Prof? Were they the biggest surprise for you of the year?
Ooh,
Surely not.
No, I have written down Outsiders winning the major. For me, that was the biggest surprise.
I have a lot of things
the biggest surprise being
here.
Cloud9 not winning the major. Yeah, you got me. Let's go, Nathany. You're my hero.
Oh dear. You're smoking some good shit tonight, mate. You've had more than 2 beers. I'll give you the hot. I have a lot of surprises here. Okay. I've just kind of listed some names, right? So we can extrapolate on these if we need to. I put Imperial here. Based
These
off
like
of
positive surprises mostly, or
well, that's what
I kind of went with it essentially.
That's what I thought, and especially when I was sitting there and I asked my mum, I said, "This guy's written down biggest surprises, Mum. Do you take that positively or negatively?" And she went positively. So I went with a positive change of events here. So Imperial, right? Obviously at the Antwerp major, their overperformance, I would say, showing a bit of magic, and also with the Striker Jinx. Movistar Riders, I would say, was a surprise for the year. Outsiders winning the major, as you'd mentioned. I've overlapped again with the FaZe versus Bad News Eagles result, and in the positive light for Bad News Eagles having that victory. I think, what else here I've written sideways? The Spinks to Vitality move was a surprise for me.
Okay.
Alexi to NIP also, I thought that was a bit of surprise. Gamer Legion beating G2 at the RMR was a big portion of the surprise. But just to see this team, especially Shui, in force, Spirit's performance at Antwerp, and then the minus Dexter situation. So I've coupled those together. ESL Faceit merger is another surprise for me in the year. And finally, JKS winning the first and last events of 2022. So I have quite a few there. I don't know which one really stands out above the rest, because I wanted to try and present us with a decent list here today to at least talk about. Matthew, is there anything there that maybe sticks out above anything else, or do you have something that I may have missed?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. I think there's two or three, let's say three, but two categories that really caught my attention here. Is one is the result categories, right? And in that one, we can probably put in the Imperial from the major. We can put in the outsiders winning the other major, of course. Personally, I think Heroic winning Copenhagen is kind of a cool surprise as well. Them finally kind of shedding the whole we never performing playoff kind of vibe. It was about time. I feel like. Exactly. But I feel like Cloud9 had about time about 7 times already, so it's gonna be about time. But yeah, all the other than that, in terms of roster moves, then hell yeah, there were a couple of surprises. Like, I think when I heard the first about the Sphinx to Vitality, okay, no, I'm gonna frame it differently. I'm gonna take the same idea but with a different how little it has provided Sphinx of Vitality. That has to be the surprise, right? Because I was so excited about it.
That's for me the disappointment. I know that was a disappointment.
I mean, we're gonna talk about it at some point, right? But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that. And then the Alexi beat NIP, of course. I'm very, very surprised. But there have been a couple of curveballs being thrown in the whole Counter-Strike world.
Device back to Astralis isn't that surprising, right? Like
it's just too late. Like, I've been waiting for this for like a year and a half. Like, come on, like it's over. Like the train's gone. Like,
because I thought about writing it down, but I thought actually it's not a surprise. That's the only other team Device would have found himself on if it wasn't an IP.
8 Jackson articles across a month. Like, I don't think it could surprise anyone when it happened at the end.
RIP Jackson. Maybe
not a surprise either.
Yeah, that's not a really. Yeah, yeah. What, Prof, did any of those knock your socks off or your jocks
off? I think
as per the Sun Gods lyrics?
That I remember seeing that and being like, what?
Yeah, right.
From the roster moves, I'd see like that was the biggest surprise, I think, for me off the top of my head right now. And yeah, still outsiders winning the major, or like outsiders winning any tournament is like, that would be kind of surprising. Like, I see them as a decent team that can compete, make playoffs, but like they're never like really that close to winning crazy big stuff, right? They made one major in like 2019 and they won the Blast event after that, but not a really like super competitive tournament. And then after losing YEKINDAR and these roster changes and just going back to grind tier 2, they come and win a major like that. It's one of the biggest like major surprises ever, so it has to be there.
It's mentioned in the chat. I just glanced at it, and that's also quite correct. Like, HooXi to G2 was kind of out of left field as well.
Yeah.
Like who actually had seen HooXi going to G2 come in?
No.
Like, out of all the options they could have had, like, I think they surprised me for sure.
And it almost didn't work. Well, maybe it still won't work
for quite a while, but yeah, it ends up in a trophy. But that was a surprise.
Do you remember, Chad, when we were doing the Cologne show and there was like, we were talking about G2 and there was one guy in the audience yelling HooXi all the time? And it was like, so how are we going to fix G2? HooXi? And we were like, what are you talking about? What is this guy on? Take his beers away. What's happening?
Turns out he was from the future.
And it wasn't me.
Yeah, well, you're yelling Copenhagen Flames every fucking second minute, mate. So that was what I would say is the difference right there. But I don't know, like, obviously I have a bias in this regard, but if you sat me down and you said, Chad, JKS is going to win Katowice and the Blast World Finals, I'd call you a fucking idiot. Like, I'd say, in what world he wasn't even playing? Like, for me, Justin starting the year from somebody who hadn't played Counter-Strike an extended period of time, being on the complexity bench, to me saying, listen, mate, we're going to play some fucking Faceit games. You're going to get back in the server and you're going to play Counter-Strike. And then, standing in and obviously being used as a bit of a pump for Carrigan to go on to get his Katowice trophy. And then to see him, have a pretty stinker of a year once he got signed and stuff, it wasn't going well until the end. And he gets the bookend of the year. Like, the first Australian player to ever win tier 1 events of that caliber. It's something to me that... It's subjective list again, everybody, but you look at it and you go, in what fucking world was this ever going to happen? Like, it was never going to happen. And the fact it did, he's made history for himself, for well, for Australia, and for me, that would be the biggest surprise for sure, because I didn't even think the kid was going to have a team. I honestly
talk about
didn't think.
a butterfly effect, right? Talk about a butterfly effect in the sense of like this. I think you can definitely make an argument that JKS winning the World Finals and closing the year is related to him getting the call, like, and stepping in for FaZe. If he doesn't step in for FaZe, and he doesn't win and does the job he does as a stand-in fantastically, probably also gaslighting everybody on how much he's going to provide immediately, but still did the job, he became like his stock immediately just went to the moon. And that's probably why he became once again part of the conversation for people who to be picked up. I mean, in Counter-Strike, things can be really cruel. Like, you disappear real fast from the radar and people forget about you, and they don't rate you anymore, and that's it. So it is actually crazy. And it's, for us, I think for storytellers, it's a beautiful little diamond whenever we have these stand-ins coming in, where we can say, listen, you can change everything. Like, this tournament can change everything. Not that this win will change your whole life, but putting yourself in that spotlight right now can open doors you don't even know existed. And look at where you're going to end. And I will also say, now we're talking, it's not really a biggest surprise, but I think it deserves a mention. The G2 victory in Abu Dhabi was probably the most humanly touching experience I have lived through this year. As simple as it is. This isn't my place to talk about what happened to Hooksy, but from a human perspective, this was the most moving and touching thing I have witnessed in quite a while. This was extremely strong, and there was beauty to it in the purest form. Beauty to, people coming together and just overperforming and just destroying everybody. That in itself was a marking moment. That's just how I would put it.
Yeah, I think like the point that you raised here, obviously it's not exclusive to this biggest surprises category, but I think again, kind of touching on the conversation we were having before we started getting into these categories, these events, it reminds, especially the big ones, and you see the human side, you see the emotion of these events, and it completely blurs out any of the noise from the HLTV comments or the mindless Reddit threads or the people on Twitter telling people to fucking kill themselves, right? Like, obviously, those are very, very horrible things. And a lot of the stuff is people just spewing their negative aura into the world. But all of that kind of takes a massive backseat when you're getting to see these people who we know how much time, how much dedication, how much of their life and sacrifice that these kids, and I say kids because they're all younger than me. And that's the unfortunate factor. You're younger than me, you're a fucking kid. Sorry, guys. But that's the end of all of this is to see this human element, and that's what we're doing this for, right? Because sure, it's a competition. Sure, we want to see the best Counter-Strike, and sure, a lot of people will just break it down to the X's and the O's. But at the end of the day, these are people. Right, these are human beings, like all of us. They're sitting at home right now, listening, however you're doing it, wherever the fuck you are in the world. And I think that right there is one of the biggest core and key elements of all of this, is that everybody goes through their own different struggles, their trials, their tribulations, all of that stuff. And then to succeed at something which is an obsession, because you're not going to be a professional, especially at an elite level discipline like this, if it's not something that's an obsession. To see them succeed at that, like, it made me real. Like, I was standing backstage when Justin won Katowice at the start of the year, and I got a fucking tear in my eye, and I'm like, I'm gonna go upstairs and give this kid a hug and shit. And like these human elements, right? Especially this Hooksy situation that you're talking about here. If it doesn't get the heart going, I don't think I have a lot of empathy as a human being. I think I'm slightly fucked up. Maybe I'm a psychopath. Who the fuck knows? Even that gets, tugs on my heartstrings a little bit there, and I think that. That reminds us all of what we're doing here, which is great. That's what this is all about. And the more of that we can see, the more of that emotion that's on display, the more that not, the people who are the hardcores watching right now, their sister, their girlfriend, their mate, their fucking mum, they can watch and they can see and they can understand this. And that's the way that we can bring in more and more Counter-Strike fans. Because, there's love in this too. So anyway, I've gone on one of my little tangents thanks to Matthew. You get me all emotional, Matthew. You get me all romanticized. I'll do my best to keep on doing
that for the next 60 to 90 minutes.
Can we talk about 7 to 12 minutes ago, Maniac said something and I wanted to tie onto that, but then
I hope that was something good because I'm scared.
It was you said about the butterfly moment,
effect.
A butterfly effect for JKS, but it also works kind of inversely for the whole G2 phase situation, winning Katowice. you can definitely say that was a 3-0, but it was very close. You can definitely say it could have gone the other way, right? What would have happened if it did go the other way? Like if Alexi B with G2 wins his first tournament instead of Rops with FaZe winning his first tournament. How does that affect both of these teams? How much more confidence does it give to G2 to go on and have, you know, even if things go bad at the next event, have like, we won fucking Katowice, let's just chill out, everything's going to work out. You guys can trust me, I know what to do. You know, all of these things could have had like a massive ripple effect on the scene, on the year. And I'm not saying that FaZe overall wouldn't still end up on top, but who knows? You know, you never know with these things how like one result like this can change everything.
Are you throwing this out to the world?
Yeah, that's it. Just like, let's just think about it. Just think about
Okay,
all the situations in your life when you did something, could have done the other thing, could have asked her out,
We're getting
didn't.
real philosophical now. Just
Right,
rethink all the choices you've made.
All right, well, hold up. Let me see if I can have some butterfly effect. 1 second, gentlemen.
He's gonna close the door.
I mean, this is a butterfly effect. The chat starts talking, writing, spamming, close the door. He goes in.
He closed the door.
He closes the door. Then he
But
maybe
what
trips
kind
on the
of-
way back.
Yeah, but maybe it's gonna be like, I don't know, maybe his heater is on the bathroom, and now because the heater is on in the bathroom, everything's gonna get
Some
like super
Final
hot.
Destination type stuff you want right now.
Yeah,
It's
and then like his
back.
toothpaste is gonna boil or something. Trying to wash his teeth.
I just want to
but-
put it out there that I cannot close my closet that's behind. This is an open closet. This is supposed to be as it is, right? I have my shirts, I have my watches, I have my suits, I have my pants here. This is open. It's supposed to stay open. Just the debate is closed. It's the only thing that we're closing right now.
Are you not
well,
afraid of like is this just like maybe this is just like creation mom thing, but it's like you need to close your closets because I don't know. I don't know. There are some like
Well,
mini
they can be dusty, but you can also dust it off, you know?
dust
like
or
a
like
functioning
mini
human being can
insects
clean your apartment.
that go in
mini
and they're like
insects. They're
What
going to
about
go in
insects? What kind of
regardless,
apartment
mate.
you live in? I
you
don't have
know
many
the,
insects in my
the
closet.
things that eats clothes and shit. I don't know. I think,
Silverfish.
yeah, I think
called.
it's just like, you know, 100-year-old thing that people just say still. So
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think they call it old wives' tales.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
As they say, old chicken, good soup.
Chicken
says
good
that?
soup. Apparently Croatians.
There we go.
All right.
Oh, no.
Well, let's go into maybe how on point that saying was. Biggest disappointment. Oh wait, hold up. I didn't say what Striker said was his fucking biggest surprise. He said, and I quote, that G2 took a whole year to win a tournament with that much talent. Striker with a bit of sass in the text. All right. Okay, so let's get into biggest disappointment, and we'll start with Strikers because I can throw this one quite swiftly over to Matthew here. Strikers' biggest disappointment, and without explanation, quite literally just reads Vitality. So Matthew, with that, take it away.
So I'll take that one. I'll happily catch that one. Alley hoop. Okay, here's the story. Here's the thing, right? You look at Vitality's whole year, and it is not nearly as much a catastrophe as we feel. But the problem is, compared to the expectations, that was a catastrophe. And that's what I'm always trying to get across. I'm trying to get across this idea that if I'm being harsh on Vitality, if I feel like I'm disappointed by Vitality, if I'm getting mad at watching them play, it's not because I genuinely feel like they're a trash team, because that is not the case. This is not how I feel. But compared to the expectations I had when SPUNJ joined and the first few signs that they have shown, I have exhausted my amount of patience and trust and belief in what is going to happen with that team compared to the expectations and goals that I have for them. I don't think they're going to meet them. I think that is it. I don't think Vitality is a trophy winning team, notwithstanding the Pro League, which I know was legit and they did what they had to do. And that was a great grand final. I have run out of trust in that team, and some of the issues that I see, and this is probably where it gets a little deeper and darker for me, some of the issues that I see for Vitality right now are not related only to SPUNJ needing time to figure out how he's going to perform, because I think that could be an easy way out. You could just say, we're going to give him a bit more time, maybe he needs to warm it up, it's going to be great. There are other issues. There is overall a lack of self-control and cold-bloodedness in stressful situations with a team literally made of major winners, literally made of major winners and ZywOo and SPUNJ.
Yeah.
And I still see them panic which to me means that they will always panic. That's my problem. I feel like as a functioning team, they are not currently equipped to deal with tense situations, and they are mainly riding momentums. And when they have the wind with them, it's great. They can destroy anybody. Oh my God, it's beauty to see. But I don't feel like they can fight back into a game the way FaZe could do it, the way Na'Vi could do it, the way these great teams actually, take the game against them and just work their way patiently into it. I just don't see Vitality do it. I think whenever shit hits the fan, it's over. And that saddens me.
So you're saying obviously they have great players. So it's not the players individually that are the problem in terms of like the panic and all of these things.
No, I think it is. No, I think it is. I mean, these are the players. Right? If a team is panicky, it's the players who are panicky, right? A team is nothing
but like there's something about the team that makes them more panicky than they used to be, maybe. Because it has to be, for me, a part of it, even though I didn't see any recent clips, like the first like audio TeamSpeak stuff from this Vitality teams, and through the last like the first 6 months, it was kind of horrible. Like I was listening at that, I'm like, there's so many like repeated information, people calling for other people telling other people what to do. There's just like so much shit going on. Like I know when you're in the zone and in the game, you can process these things much more easier. But like, I feel like the type of information that was being given out was just not a thing that should function and that should happen in a team of this like caliber. And a part of it was also Misuta. I feel like people wanted to like micromanage him because he was new and all of this, but it just seems to be kind of the same thing that we had 6 months ago, but with a better player, and that's kind of it.
Yeah. I mean, just to bounce back on that quickly as well, we'd be remiss to not mention Apex, as in his style of being and communicating is directly related to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee, I mean, I've played with Apex, right? And he was just a player at the time, and I'm sure he's got a much different task on his shoulders now. But I think first and foremost, as a leader, you are the one that is supposed to put out that kind of like calmness and certainty in what you're doing. And I don't think it's happening. Whenever we peek behind the curtains, it's real dicey, and it's real panicky again. And that like if I was in control of the whole thing, suddenly just boop, put me on top and I decide everything. That's one of the first thing I would do. Like I would literally just mute them myself, and I would only allow them to speak when I see fit, just to calm down like the stream of communication and make better decisions. Because I agree with you. I think most of it is related to communication. So Chad.
No, you're right. I don't have an awful lot to say about Vitality because
I'm just happy to be here because you hate international teams. I mean, you don't hate them, but you have your opinion on them, which is
well, what I wanted to do here, right? Because obviously, Matthew, because of the connection to the French side of things, has a bit more of a vested interest here. But just comparing the years, right? Like we know at the tail end of last year, 2021, the bells were already ringing, right? They were already, we knew that the team was already going to be changing, but they had that final event towards the end of the year where did they win? Did they have a good showing? I don't know. My memory's getting fucking worse.
They won the ESL IM Winter, right? And then they finished second at Blast Global Final.
Global Finals, yeah, that was in Copenhagen, right?
And they also finished the second at Copenhagen, I think. Second or third. Like they had a good showing there as well.
So we have at that point in time, right, towards the tail end of that year, where a lot of the pressure gets released because the team essentially is one of these like dead teams as we frame it. And they were able to play as a unit a lot more relaxed Counter-Strike. But one of the things, and I'm not sure if it's a talking point that we've had on this show or if it's something that we're speaking to Janko and Jason about, but in terms of the stress levels of the team and when they're approaching the game, right, that they just look so tense all the time. And it appears that they're playing not to lose as opposed to playing to win. And that right there, like we know that there's a lot of pressure on this team. The reason that this change was made was to win. And then they didn't fulfill that either after making yet another roster change within the year of 2022. So I can understand the side of disappointment there. And the biggest qualm I have is seeing Spinks be a superstar player, the marquee player for ENT in the first 6 months of the year, to then just be a complete shadow of himself. And then the event that Vitality win is ZywOo playing classic ZywOo, right? With this team, right? That when we know that Vitality are fucking popping off, we go back to the Alex days of this roster, and it was, yeah, we're flashing for him, but no, we're ZywOo just fucking demolishing everybody, right? So it feels like we've returned to that sentiment again, and this team isn't getting any younger, especially along the lines of Apex and Dupree, as we know. So look, I'm definitely down to put them in the disappointing column. I had them in the middle of the road purely based off the Pro League victory. But that's, I would say, more recency bias, because over the course of the year, there's definitely a lot of disappointment to be had for Vitality. But when we weigh them up against names like Cloud9, Astralis, that was a disappointment for the entirety of the year. I can even throw certain names in the mix here along the lines of Complexity, EG, and I even listed Apex. And I don't know why I put.
I forgot. I thought you were talking about the player for a second.
Yeah, I was thinking that's
the
an
team.
interesting turn. And the team, right?
Right. So I had a couple of extra names on here, and then the one for me that takes the absolute cake, and this is not a team. I put ESIC. You know,
okay.
Those would stand out. I don't know
is in a category of their own. Like they're
precisely.
It's unfair to put them in this. It's like playing the kiddie leagues with Cristiano Ronaldo or something. So
yeah. It's I don't know.
Think
There's
like
a
G2
lot of
missing the major for me was
true. Yeah.
Was also like a big disappointment. But I think Astralis, even though like everything we said about Vitality is fair, I think Astralis this year is more disappointing. Like they're not. They made that playoffs of Cologne, and that is all.
Didn't they play in the? Who did Heroic play in the final?
Pinnacle,
Who did you said Astralis, right? The Astralis
the
Heroic
Pinnacle Cup. Heroic won against Astralis, I think.
Yeah, but that's like a small tournament. Like if you don't get the what else can you actually? I feel like they are like a complete non-factor in terms of tier 1 CS this year, not with a chance to do any big damage. Like compare them to like Ents. They have no rights to be even compared to Ents. Like Ents is like miles ahead of what they did this year. Any of the teams, Vitality, Navi, FaZe, Furia, all of them so much better than Astralis. And when you look at it at the end of last year, when they made the changes, when they brought in Config and BlameF, like this is a pretty good upgrade for not upgrade, but like pretty good signings for losing the players that they lost and Magic and Dupree. Like you can, there can be something here. But they just spent the year wasting time with like offers that don't work, and combined with that, like just a whole style that didn't really mesh properly at any point with like Zip and fucking BlameF overlapping, and then maybe BlameF and Glaive overlapping on the CT side, and like just trying to rejig things, and then getting a coach, then firing a coach because Config, and that's like a whole different story. But even if they did go to Rio, like they were never going to do anything there, right? I think for the org of their stature, like it was a joke year. It's like complete rattle. Like they would want this to not ever exist in the history books.
It's actually crazy because you're definitely right. But I was just thinking, why have I not thought of Astralis as a disappointment? And it's because disappointment comes from hopes and expectations.
The expectations, yeah.
And it was actually none. Like without even. Okay, let me rephrase. Very quickly into 2022, I felt like it was clear that something was wrong. And from that moment on, they were just grasping at straw and trying to basically put a Band-Aid on a broken arm or freaking hemorrhage coming out. I mean, there was definitely something profoundly wrong with Astralis, which made me leave that boat, leave that train, and just let it go. Watch by the wayside as I see them full forcing into the wall. So I didn't really have expectations for Astralis. They haven't disappointed me because I didn't expect much from them.
Whatever, yeah.
That was a bad year. Questionable decisions, individuals not providing what they were supposed to. All the factors you've listed, I'm not going to go them again, but so many reasons why they were going to struggle this year, and struggle they have, which if we do the comparison is why Cloud9 for me is a disappointment, because my expectations were much higher. And I actually really love Cloud9, and I have defended them against waves of criticism and doubt for the longest time, because I think when we got back to LAN, I think people were too quick to throw Cloud9 to the lions and say, listen, this is bullshit. They're never going to do anything. And at the time, I thought this was premature. This was way too quick. We had to give them time. But the time has passed. The time has passed. They have played a bunch of events. They have been in a bunch of situations where you can try, fade, learn, try better. And every single time, I feel like whenever a bracket is opening up for them to write their story and go and lift that trophy that they're supposed to outside from Dallas, they haven't done it. So when do we stop believing? Because I can only believe for so long that this click is going to happen for that group of people. I wouldn't really want them to change. I'm not a big fan of the whole minus interns plus buster whatever rumor we're reading. I'm not a big fan of it. But when is it time? Like, when is it time if you want to win?
Yeah, there's only one player in that entire team that I think stepped up as they needed to for Cloud9 to be a championship caliber squad, and it was Shiro. He was the only one that showed the gusto over the course of the year to go, okay, well, these are the plays that need to be made. And I think the transcendence of C9 in the online era and then the soft entry that we gave them, I think that the critique of things not going as it should is fair at this stage. And if they were to make a bit of a chop and a change with a player or two or a role or whatnot going into the year of 2023, then it's probably going to be a very welcomed one. It's hard just to, weigh up the biggest disappointment, because coming into this year of Counter-Strike, the conversation was still mainly around the likes of Na'Vi.
Yeah,
right? Like
Navi's
that was,
era.
It's right. So to measure teams to them, I guess Cloud9 would have been one of those names in that conversation. So I don't know. I see people in the chat saying Axel deserves a lot of credit as well. I think that Axel played well, but I don't think that Axel showed in those moments, other than what you referenced previously, Prof, with the Dallas, which proves to be an anomaly over the course of the year. I don't think that he showed the same balls in the same way as what Ashiro did, who was happy to take over games and take over situations. So I find it very difficult to, Cloud9 definitely falls into that disappointment category for me. I'm with you, Matthew, as well about Astralis. I had no expectations for them. I think Apex as an org, I mentioned them before, probably for the org, was very disappointing. I don't know. Like EG and Cole, I had a little bit of promise for Cole for where they were. I'm not talking about them coming through and necessarily being a world-beating team by any means, but I thought that they would have taken a gradual step upwards, and it felt for a moment that they did take that step. Then it felt like 2 steps backwards.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of bits and bobs there. If you throw in a basket, that we have a disappointing sandwich. So
disappointing sandwich.
Yeah, we got to. But ESIG for me, they get the cake. We'll send them the cake.
Okay.
It'll be a shit cake.
It's one of those cakes. You open it, you're a disappointment. That's
Don't eat me. It's
that's
just
that's the frosting on the cake. So
it'll be a fucking vegan cake. It'll be a piece of shit. No offense to all the vegans out there. Hope you love
No
you.
offense, of course.
Actually, they probably have sugar, so your cakes are probably still good. You just don't have milk. Anyway, you can make some, do what you got to do.
You can make some cakes.
You do what you got to do, guys. Eat the way you want to eat. You might have dietary requirements. Don't worry about me. I'm just a fucking cranky old man shouting at clouds who fucking 12-year-olds keep coming in the chat and talking about my hair. Guys, what do you want me to do about it? What do you look at me in the eyes right now? Do you think that I want the top of my fucking head to look like this? Do you honestly think that I actively would like my head to look like this? Because if you do, you're a fucking moron.
I think what you have to do is have like a stupid mustache to take away the focus from the hair, and then people are just gonna be like, "What is this mustache?" And then,
take control of the narrative.
Yeah,
take a long walk off a short pier.
Short pier.
Let that one sink in. I know for a few of you, it's gonna take a while for that to click in your heads. You fucks. Anyway, let's get middle of the road, which is what this is, the middle of the fucking road. Anyway, let me click the next little copy.
I had Cole for middle of the road.
Okay, tell me
what is this category even? What are we doing? Like,
it's
just
like
this one confused me a bit.
Barely, they just exist.
You know what's middle of the road? This category.
We could have done without this one, huh?
Right into the sunset. Let's go. No,
shit.
Okay. How much time do you have? We can, yeah. We can just,
what's up?
I said someone's knocking on your door. You should try to open it. Check if someone's there.
My partner can't go to the bathroom because we're doing this fucking podcast. So, gentlemen,
the shout, or they have to piss in a
They-
bowl or something?
It's a she. I just say partner because I'm not fucking 18. You know, saying girlfriend, I know it feels. I got a card from my parents for Christmas. It says to our son and his partner, and I was like,
That's a proper
guess
way
I'm-
to say it.
guess I'm old now.
Significant
It's like-
other as well. That's the next level. Significant
like-
other.
But partner
Yeah.
always sounds like you have a business. It's like
yeah, true. But sometimes I feel like we
Chad
do,
and
right?
Co, you know, the lawyer office.
Yeah. Well, we're working on some
At
business.
LTD.
All right. Let's have a little look here. So, Prof, you said you had complexity. Do you want to give us your explanation of why, and then maybe Maniac and I can come up with a team to meet your list?
No, I have complexity. I have big and OG here. It's just teams that I think maybe OG is kind of more in the disappointment area. But I was like, these teams that are just there, they play the tournament, they win some games, they lose some games, they're out, and you don't really get too excited either way about what happens because of all of the just everything about them. Like in complexity, as you said, there are some like they're not as even close to being, you know, a liquid, but they're not as bad as EG. So they're like farly anchored in these two.
Okay.
And they're just there in the middle of the road, as one would say, and no one is paying attention to them. If you want to make fun of NA, you're gonna go to EG. If you're gonna say NA has hope, you're gonna go to liquid. And complexity is just like, would be cool if they qualified for the major. They didn't. Oh, let's go Fallen.
It sounds like big
Sounds
that
a-
you're describing right now. That's
What?
the vibes. It sounds like big. Right?
Yeah.
I'm getting the vibes that you're giving me right now. I would write big. I would put big in that list.
Yeah.
So they come to mind with this description you're giving. Maniac, does any team come to mind with that description from Prof?
I don't know. I have a couple of names, but I don't know if I'm being rightful or fair. Because I think I have been criminally underrating MOUZ, but I feel like MOUZ is that team for me. Like,
Yeah.
they're here.
Yeah.
They're here. You know, it's
Until
great.
until the major, I agree. I was in the same boat with that. It was like,
I mean, there's obviously some players in there. I think Xtrfy is definitely something. And I think he's here to stay, and he's already in a very short span of time marked a couple of moments in his very young career, and he's displayed an aptitude to making difference in high pressure situations, which I really value for a new player. So, you know, definitely my eyes on Xtrfy. I think Dexter's done better than I thought he would, because I might have had relatively low expectations for him as an IGL. I think he's done better than I thought. But they also have a couple of players who don't really inspire me too much. So I don't know. MOUZ is here. Like, it's not bad. They're just here. That they're on the road.
Yeah.
And I would have wished for Furia to do more, because Furia is kind of. I feel like Furia is like that moment is like, at some point it's gonna happen. Like, at some point it's gonna happen. They have two strong players. Like, Kisarado is too strong. Yuri is too strong. It's gonna happen. And yeah, I'm still waiting for that bus, so it hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah, I wish they were trying to make the play for NQZ, right? That would be something to get excited about, because I think like Quesarado and Yuri as a duo is fantastic, right? And I just still can't quite work out how they got rid of fucking Vinny, but whatever. That's not up to me. I guess that's up to the team to decide. But Fury, like, so I tell a little bit of fear, but to white lie, it makes things a little bit more exciting. In terms of middle of the road for my lovely little handwriting here that I jotted down, I wrote Vitality, G2, Na'Vi, Furia, and Big, right? Those are the teams that I jotted down. The reason I put like Vitality, G2, Na'Vi, Ents as well in middle of the road is because, yeah, sure, they maybe had like some peaks, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of the year overall, it's hard to dot them around. Na'Vi is a special case, of course. We'll understand the war situation and everything that's plagued them throughout the year. So maybe let me scratch them off. They should probably not even feature there. But everybody else, you know, a Big fall into the category that you mentioned with complexity before. They're that type of name. You know, the one thing about Big for the year that I will say I did like was Sirison showing some teeth on land. That was the highlight of Big for me for the year, because I have a lot of confidence in Tabson.
They also got really fucked with all of the illnesses and situations that was like out of their control. But it doesn't change the facts. Like, at the end of the day, they weren't really an exciting team to follow in any regard.
Yeah, I think when I watch Big, like, it feels like there's it feels very like I don't know, like a
German.
harsh environment. No, not German. Like a harsh environment to be in. Like I'm not saying because I don't know what Gob's saying, and I have an awful lot of respect for Gob, but the way that Tamsin and Gob seem to talk to their teammates, like it's very direct, which I don't know how everybody's able to deal with that. So yeah, I'm kind of gone off in a bit of a tangent here, but yeah.
No, you're right. I think it's something uncomfortable about Big that I personally have when I watch them is the profound feeling that two of these players could very obviously play at a higher level. And I don't think Tapson is excellent, as an excellent, truly and purely excellent, has been for the past 75 years. And Sursen also is starting to show moments where he's slowly growing out of this massive onliner period, which he definitely had at a point in time in Counter-Strike. And then whenever these two are on one, you standing looking at thinking that this is not possible. Like, these two can't be where they're at in the hierarchy of Counter-Strike. Oh, as I kick the shit out of my mic. They cannot be where they're at in the hierarchy of Counter-Strike. That doesn't sit well with me, honestly. And yes, I am both impressed by Taps's loyalty and his ever-dying wish to stay in Big and keep on with the project, and I respect the head out of it. And at the same time, simultaneously frustrated to not have seen him take a chance at a different team at a higher shot, because I remain convinced that he's an exceptional player and he could still do, and will be able to do more than what he's condemned to do with Big. So that's my little frustration when it comes to Tapson, which I hold in very high regard.
Okay. Boys, do we have anything else we want to kind of just go under this middle of the road?
No.
Let's get to the
we
correct side of the road.
Ad break?
Lucas, do you want us to run an ad break? All right, let's run an ad break. We'll be right back.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
Game.
Welcome back, and thank you for bearing with us throughout the ad break on your free content. Now, Wipers, you're going to get comment of the year. I've just decided it now. It's a brand new category I've just started. Wipers has said, why get a mouse when you can get a rat? Now, good stuff, Wipers. Your free air will be in the mail. Keep an eye out for it, mate. It's going to be on the way. Anyway, speaking of on the way, we're going to get back on the way.
Such a fun mouse, as I say.
Or a fun rat.
That's enjoyable.
We love the tail. Wipers just got timed out for 600 seconds and then quickly removed. So Lucas is let's know how it feels.
I pinned his comment and it said like click away from this menu to pin it, and I clicked away and hit the ban button on him.
Why not? Just ban everybody. Yeah, just fucking go for it. Don't worry about it, bud. All right. All right. What were we saying? Biggest controversy or controversy? You can pronounce it either way you'd like. I don't mind. It's up to you at home. That's the lucky dip, the Goosebumps book that is your pronunciations. Now, there's a few of these here. Now, there's nothing really that stood out to me immediately while jotting down my list other than the config. Oh, I didn't read out. Hold up. Sorry, guys. I didn't read out what Striker wrote for middle of the road. I bet he didn't write anything. What did he write middle? He didn't write anything for middle of the road. He just left it blank. So
it wasn't a confusing category. It was a surprise. It was kind of out of left field. even though
Okay.
it was in the middle. It wasn't.
It wasn't a home run. How many more kind of sayings can we fit into one here? But anyway, let's
Hotel
get on to.
mold. I see in chat. Hotel mold.
Hotel
Oh,
mold.
fucking
Is it
hell,
Hunden,
Moldgate.
Hunden, Unbend, and Isik. Oh my god, I didn't put this down. It's the Starbucks incident, boys. It is. Close it down.
Oh my God, Stewie Starbucks. That was this year. What a year it's been. What I kind of leave Stewie alone because, like I've mentioned on this show several times before, he doesn't want anything to do with Counter-Strike. Why do we give a fuck, right? That's how he wants to be treated. That's how we should treat him. So if you want to put that towards the top of the pops, Prof, I'm more than happy for you to make a case for it. Would you like to explain to everybody why that is your favorite of all the potential
I just thought like,
controversies?
the way it came out, it was so unorthodox. It doesn't happen almost. Like you don't even ask these questions, but we got all of the answers. That was kind of cool. That was kind of funny in a way to get an insider from the team, just like spill all the beans, to spill the beans.
That's right.
Spill
Yes.
the tea.
Yeah.
So and then the whole like back and forth that came out, and you know you have to give it to Malik in the end. He acted like a proper French gentleman. He didn't get like. He took everything on the chin, didn't get involved, said like everything's fine, everything's good, we're all friends. That's kind of nice. That's like a class act right there from Malik.
Well, wait, it's schoolyard drama. I don't think Malik gives a fuck, really.
Yeah, but it's nice anyway. Like he also got like kind of shafted by G2 last year.
He's back.
And then he got left EG, went back to EG, and yeah, he's doing good. So that's a good one for me. Config.
But did it make the papers, mate? Because Moldgate made the fucking papers.
Moldgate made the papers.
It made the papers.
Which is
it
insane.
made print in Malta. Well, I don't know if it made print, but it made an Instagram of a fucking news
site.
publication.
Yeah.
So it made
That
something.
that was huge. Config was huge. Config in Malta.
What about this one? The Modesty smoke bug.
That's a good one, though. It's probably the only one I would dare to, or I would actually decide to involve a little bit of my brain power to it. So fucking leave me alone with that.
What do you think, Maniac, about MOUZ's plus NBK, minus NBK?
Oh, is that a
Was that this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I think about? I think about all the people that just bandwagon saying this was the stupidest decision ever, and all these people have disappeared as soon as MOUZ had good results. None of them. I wish y'all broadcast islands with the hot takes all the time. I wish I was taking screenshots of all the shit that's been said, because people use the internet because we're all cats and we have a memory of 2 minutes, and everybody says the outrageous shit, and then it doesn't come to fruition, and then we just move on with our lives.
So
many
who
people
are
said
you
that was
calling
such
out
a
now?
bad move, and then
Let's
suddenly
get
they
the
win.
names. Let's get the names out.
Dude, you can probably pick anybody. Like obviously Maui, which I love, is the king of that. You know, like Kimo is gonna be better than Rez. Let's put it out there. You know, he's the absolute king of that. But then who cares if we're wrong? Everybody forgets, and then we move on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good one. But
Yeah.
I think at least the Modesty one had some merit to it. I think there was a conversation to be had around like that smoke. Would that be able? Should we use it or not? But for the rest of it, I have a very selfish, self-centered approach when it comes to these drama. Okay, it's very simple. The way I live my life is very simple. Does it involve myself? Is it any risk for my own life, and I have to do something about it? If yes, I will get involved and I will do what's necessary. If not, I will not dedicate any freaking neurons of my brain to it. This is my choice. My life is better without it. All that ESIC bullshit, Moldgate fights shit. I don't care about that. I don't. I choose to live my life.
But what about
I don't care about that. I don't.
What about the EPL breakfast
I
fight?
don't even know.
Ah.
Is that the Danish
alleged
thingy?
Glaive Cadian altercation. What do you
I
think?
can't believe that conversation even disseminated into people thinking that there was an actual altercation. I didn't hear anything of an actual altercation other than them talking shit to each other at breakfast. That was it. That's all I
Essentially
heard.
throwing plates. What I hear you saying,
Throwing
they're
plates.
throwing plates.
I don't know how it gets taken to that.
I
You know,
didn't
like
I didn't hear. I just heard words were said.
yeah, talking shit to each other.
But that does add something to the spice of the game, right? Doesn't
Well, there's
it?
already enough spice for heroic versus Astralis.
Never
right?
enough. Never enough.
That rival. But I'm with Matthew to an extent. However, I just want to point out, and this might not be to Matthew, it might be to everybody else playing at home. There is a reason that one of the key mediums that people consume regarding media is bullshit like Big Brother and Survivor and all these reality TV shows, right? Because people love the drama side of the human elements. Like the Boomich situation was this year as well, right? Like obviously him being dropped from the team, but we all know when he proposed after they won the Stockholm Major, we've all got a mate that's just dating that chick, and everyone's like, bro, that's not the one. Like you can't go to him, you can't go, yeah, bud, she's gonna fuck your life out. You can't say that because that's gonna cause a bit of friction. You might not be a very good mate in that regard. The config situation going on over there in Malta as well, and then recovering from the drama seemingly 3 days later, and everything's fine. But obviously, a bit of hyperbole there.
Box. I'm not going to be able to hold it. Move on swiftly.
That's a stressful one right there.
Think if we want that, there's also obviously the frisbee incident, as they call it.
Yes.
Which I know nothing about. I completely missed that. I came too late to witness the frisbee incident. Well, it is what it is, as they say in the sport. But I think definitely the
what goes around comes around, but that's a boomerang. So
not a frisbee, right?
Yeah.
You could if you throw it at a certain angle.
if we had a major in Australia, maybe it would be a boomerang incident.
So there you go.
But in a way, I'm not gonna. I think config takes it though. It was like the most publicized thing that we got. Yeah, it's insane.
That's a pretty big deal, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty crazy. But like he's back. Like, that's insane. That's why I'm okay to pick it.
Okay, because he's back.
He's gonna have some offers. He played well.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I think the config one too. I don't know how many players are getting in fights and having their legs broken and getting kicked from a team. So that one there has to be towards the top of the pops. That's for sure. Okay, what do we got here? All right. Well, this one, next category. Let me just lean on over here. So
not letting you do anything.
The next little tabaroonie is the biggest breakout. Now, I'm sure you're not talking about the occasional pimple, Prof. I'm sure you're talking about player here, mate.
Yeah.
Do you want to correct the record?
Or team.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where there might be a little bit of overlap with biggest surprise column, maybe when we mentioned the like Movistar Riders, for example. Yeah. Because I've only gone for players in this category, and
I have a few teams, so maybe I can inspire you.
Okay, hit us with the teams. What do you got there?
I have Bad News Eagles. I think making 2 major top 16s this year, pretty good. Like they did not exist practically before. I don't know when they got together actually, but I think maybe like 6 months before that max. Mm-hmm. I think that's like a pretty good year for them, even though they did kind of fuck all through the rest of the year, which is for me concerning. But yeah, them. I have Sprout, like this new Sprout lineup. I feel like it's pretty good, and they have like a lot of new interesting pieces coming together. I feel like there's potential there. Maybe not fully a breakout year, but they also played a major. A lot of new like major rookies, and I put down IHC, at least for like the Asian region. They set like a new, not a new standard, but they are now like the #1 team in the region.
I'd say a new standard in terms of play style.
That as well, yeah. And they kind of dethroned the Greyhound guys, Renegades guys, from like always winning all of the Asian stuff, and then also like kind of eliminated Tai Lu from the conversation and the Chinese teams that didn't make the last 2 majors, right? So that's kind of for their kind of where they're from and what the expectations are like that. I feel like that's like a breakout.
Okay. All right. So from a team perspective there, yeah. Well, in terms of players, and then we'll let Matthew kind of lob in his 2 cents in both of these categories here. He can kind of help surmise this. I put Exertion, Monacy, Torji, JDC, Wonderful, Stare, Fiku, Lonks. Now, obviously, some of those a little bit more than others, depending on how much impact they've had throughout the course of the year. Like Monacy, I think almost undoubtedly would have to be breakout of the year just because of the caliber of Counter-Strike and the entertainment that he's been offering, right? The others, like Wonderful, he's been really like quite, I wouldn't say a pillar. He's definitely been someone to get excited about, and you're seeing his growth from event to event. The trio from the Academy of Exertion, Torji, and JDC, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm not a hater of the Academy situation, but I shun the non-believer, right? I think that I would fall into that category, right? Because seeing is believing, and they've definitely performed in certain scenarios in my book, and that for their first year of this level of Counter-Strike, if they can continue to do so in 2023, then they'll be converting me for sure. But I liked what we saw from Stare, right? I think that there's some names in the mix there that were exciting to watch. So they were some of the names I was lobbing out there. Matthew, anything there really leaping off the page from either of those lists from Prof and I?
I just wanted to quickly bounce back on Torzi because I have been a little bit disappointed. I think in high pressure situations, I don't think he's delivered what he'd done in other situations, which is not a feat that I really appreciate in a player. It could be first year jitters, so to speak, and it could be that he works his way out of it. But I think at some point he's been the key missing element for MOUZ. But in terms of positives, yes, m0NESY has to take the cake on that. It is an incredible first year that he's had with G2. Honestly, like performance, oh my god, like he's gone so fast from being a flashy oper that runs everywhere and misses easy shots and gets caught off guard to an actual turret that will do the flicks and the safe and the right move and the clutch. I feel like he's turned so quickly into the full package. I said it at the desk. I can't remember if it was in Abu Dhabi or in Copenhagen, but I think he's going to be here for a decade. m0NESY's here for a decade. He's going to be one of the best players in the world of Counter-Strike for years to come. I see no reason why this would go sideways with how he's been playing. But there are a couple of other names that probably need or deserve a mention. I agree with the Exertion one. I think Stone has kind of entered into this category that we were hoping for. For a while, we were thinking, oh, might this happen? Might this happen? Boom. I think it kind of happened this year. He's been delivering a couple of great performances. I think Gabby broke out of his shell. The first tournament with Heroic had me really worried. And after that, it got much better when they had the deep runs. And yeah, Wonderful is a good pick. I'm trying to think if I'm missing really someone profoundly right now.
I mean, Patsy also, I don't know if you mentioned him, but yeah, he's also definitely there in that conversation. I think I was talking about the m0NESY conversation for you. Do you feel like this is kind of like a football comparison, but like ZywOo and Simple are Cristiano and Messi? Is he like is he the Mbappe? Is he the next generation? Like when these guys start fading out, like he's going to be the best in the world?
I think he is the closest that I have seen in terms of capabilities and uniqueness of Counter-Strike he plays. He is the closest. He is the first one out of the new bunch, out of ZywOo and Simple, that really gets me looking at him like, what the F is going on? Like, what is he doing? What can he do? Like, this guy is doing, I mean, not to be, we all have to be humble, but I've been in this business for many, many, many years. I've seen many, many games of Counter-Strike, but still, watching m0NESY, I am going through first times. Like, what the hell was that? He is the first one that gives me that feeling for quite a while after ZywOo. I think Bit did a little bit of that just mechanically, but it wasn't even close to m0NESY. I feel like m0NESY is way more complete. So yeah, m0NESY would be the next one on that list. I feel like
people are saying like, oh, ZywOo is 22, but m0NESY is 17. So, okay, do you understand? This is a 5-year difference.
Yeah, is ZywOo 22 already?
Yes, ZywOo is closer to Simple than he is to...
Damn, I didn't realize that. He's
still going to have him for a lot more years, but yeah.
At some point.
The new gen, it's fucking ridiculous what we're talking about here, isn't it? But yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, Matthew. I think like is the one who leaves the jaw agape, right? You sit here, you're seeing things that you don't quite believe, which is the same taste that gets left in the mouth when Simple or ZywOo makes one of those plays. Now, hopefully m0NESY doesn't hear this. We don't want the kid to get too big of a head too soon. But yeah, he's definitely, he is the prospect out of all of these names that we've jotted down on the list that seems the most exciting for now. There's still an opportunity for a lot of these names to still flourish, but m0NESY's been able to hit the ground running, and you can just see that this kid, like, you know, what, I forget how many fucking hours people say that this kid's played, but you can tell that it is
20K or something, right?
Yeah, and you can see that. You can see that this is what he knows, right? This is, and from what I was talking about before, right, the obsession side of things, this is what he knows. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like the obsession is one part, right? You need to have that obsession will drive you to continue to be there and play and put the hours in. But what it is like you still have to be a unique individual to see the matrix differently, because a lot of people can have the obsession, but not everybody can be able to break it down in the X's and the O's and understand what is possible. Like I'm sure a lot of people could put in just as many hours in a MOUZ or Simple or a ZywOo and not have the same results. So that's what I think is the curious factor with these people. They're the phenoms, right? And there's a reason that they stick out when we get to watch them. So hopefully more from them in the future. So how do we want to cap this one off, Prof? What do you think for biggest breakout? Good player? Should we just go with MOUZ here?
We can. Yeah, we can. I feel like that's fine.
All right. Cool. Anything else we want to add here, gentlemen?
Not right
Silence
now.
is an answer. Okay,
No.
cool. Fine. Yeah, fair enough. So this one here, there might be a bit of overlap with what we were just talking about, but we have most entertaining player / team as the next little category to sink our teeth into here. So MOUZ is definitely a very entertaining player.
Yeah.
But there has to be, like for me, my list consists of both players and teams. So as far as teams go, teams that I think play exciting Counter-Strike doesn't always necessarily correlate with best Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Well, maybe more in the best column, I would have like FaZe and Heroic. I think they play exciting Counter-Strike, whether it be clutch, whether it be very mid-round heavy and sporadic decisions that are hard to keep the finger on the pulse of. But I also threw Bad News Eagles just because it's so in your face and stylistically something that we don't have a lot in terms of the upper echelons or even the tier 2 to tier 1.5 level of Counter-Strike. And then in the individuals, Twistzz has to be one of my absolute favorite players to watch, right? And the entertainment level of the Counter-Strike that I see from him is the impact that he has in a game is the stuff that my like Counter-Strike dreams are made of. Like when Twistzz has impact, that right there is a defining moment in a game, which for me, as like an analyst or a color commentator or somebody who looks at Counter-Strike through that guys, that is like very high up on my entertainment level. I have broken list through the high progressive AWPing style, MOUZ that we already mentioned, and Dexter. Dexter also falls into that similar category, and I'm still trying to mend that bridge. He's a little bit upset with me, I think, still from the comments a little bit earlier in the year, but we all know how it folds. So anything else to add, or anybody who comes to mind for you, Matthew, outside of any of these names on this list?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna spare us the ZywOo Simple because I guess they'll be forever and ever in that list, and we can put him under the rug for half a second. I agree with Twistzz, and even it is even more so respectable because he is surrounded by so much talent and skill that he actually finds a moment to have that singular impact. Which in itself, when you're surrounded by people who will have highlights, I think it makes it even harder to have these flashy moments, and he definitely does. I mean, his again, we go back to the Cologne Grand Final slide on into Mini going to inside. That's just, if you watch Counter-Strike, you will keep that in mind for probably forever. I personally remain an everlasting fan of Nico's Counter-Strike.
Okay.
One
taps.
Yeah, it's more than just one taps. I mean, obviously he's got probably one of the best crosser placement we have in the game, but it's just overall, it's just correct. It's just right. When you see a player go through a clutch or the way he takes areas, it's just like he knows what he's doing. And whenever he's on one as well, with the rifle, I don't think there's a lot of people that can discuss his hegemony with the rifle. So Nico remains a beauty to see for me, even though his year hasn't been as good as we could hope for. But he remains at the top. MOUZ, definitely we talk about it. I don't know if I'm really missing someone. K-Serrado had a couple of moments that got me at the edge of my seat.
Yeah, the second half of the year was pretty good for him.
Yeah, just enough to have me believe and then break my heart again. But I think he's had a few moments where he was exceptional.
People are saying Art in the chat. Like, Art definitely is exciting when it works, but that's the thing, like the duality of that.
I don't think this year we saw that much of it, honestly.
I think he had one like early in Pro League. In the year, maybe it was last year. I see it all blends into one for me, but I know he had some but in terms of the consistency of the excitement, yeah, you're right, and it's more difficult for him to get away with those type of plays now. YEKINDAR's in the conversation, Prof. What do you make of that?
Course. I mean, for sure. I think it's almost kind of a boring answer to give. It didn't really it changed since he broke out like was that last year or 2020? 2020 was right when he kind of joined VP during
yes, yeah.
during the online and everything. He is not like that insanely aggressive anymore, but he still has a lot of plays that he does and is fun to watch. So for sure on the list for me.
Okay. Well, it seems like we're curating a lot of the similar names here. It tends to make sense. I see people, throwing in a couple of different, like I think this is the thing, and maybe we have some newer viewers just joining us here, but we've been making sure to say that a lot of this is a subjective view, right? So maybe if a moment caught you at home, right, or you're maybe a big fan of a play style, right? Maybe you base the way that you approach the game off a similar type of player, then you're going to have a tendency to lean a little bit more in regards to those players.
There's all kinds of people out there in the world, there's weird people. Some people like Maui enjoy watching Jame all the time. So, it's...
And to each his own, You got all kind of kinks out there, all kind of kinks.
Yeah, and we don't kink shame here on this
Absolutely not, we
podcast.
don't.
Maybe on some other podcasts, but not on this podcast.
Oh yeah, make sure to invite me when you do that one. What was that? I think one way to summarize it, when we used to say, like, one of the most boring sentences at the desk, you can say, like, oh yeah, when they're playing their A game, they're gonna win this game. That's one of the bullshit that we try to avoid. I try to avoid the most. The way I categorize a couple of players is whenever they hit that zone, they do it like nobody else. They will serve you something that is unique in its flavor, texture, whatever is happening. It's not just, oh, he's having a good game. Like a Nico that is on point gives you something that's unique with the rifle. Honesty that is on point gives you something that's unique. ZywOo simple, they do that for sure. To an extent, maybe Robs has a little bit of a uniqueness in how mechanical he is, but I don't buy into the excitement that much. But that's how I categorize it. What player can have me go through unique emotions and feelings when I'm watching them play? And not everybody can, even if you're having a good game. So that's how you separate the great from the exceptionals. That's how I see it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe we could do a little subcategory here for this one. Is there any player that stands out for you boys who is the most entertaining, now whether it be for good or bad reasons, outside of the server? So the game is live, or maybe not live, maybe they're in interviews. But is there anybody that stands out maybe with their reactions or with the way that they present themselves in terms of media as somebody who would be considered the most entertaining, right? I know that a lot of people have like Apex and Dupree in there.
There's two names out there. Probably Apex and Kaden, I guess. They're the most vibrant personalities, let's put it this way.
I love me some Hampus, though. Hampus...
in interviews is always very candid.
He says things. He does say things. And I guess that's why also NIP don't want him to do that many interviews anymore, especially last year with all of this device bullshit going around and there being so much red tape about that. I think they were fucking sweating every time someone put a microphone in front of his face, because he did say like 2-3 times on records, like, yeah, I'm happy with this team. I don't care who is device who is like, I just want to play this game with some people that want to play with me. That's all I want. So that was
gold.
Campus is for me is super entertaining, and also like on the server can also qualify, but outside I would say extra. So
okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. All right, let's jump forward into our next category. The next category is going to be
that's a tough one.
Best team / player for the second season. So after we're not going through the calendar and going, like that. We're going to go from after the player break, where we obviously had a lot more different names lifting trophies, making finals. So this one here, I would say would be the most subjective. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I think when I say I think this is how you define your categories of success with grand final appearances.
Consistency.
Precisely. So I don't know where to even start with this, because everybody's going to have a different answer here. Do we want to start with team? Because I think we should definitely do team, and then we should definitely do player, because they're distinct categories and they might not even overlap in terms of who you think is the best team, may or may not have been the best player. So let's start with team. Prof, do you have anybody at the tip of your tongue towards the top of that list?
I think I was leaning towards heroic, honestly.
Okay.
Based on, if we look at the second part of the year, what is the biggest tournament? It's the major. That was won by outsiders, but they did fuck all. aside from that. So for me, they can't be the best team. Then you look at Heroic made the finals there and also won another tournament. So I feel like no one can really match that up. They had their other results not that great. You can try to look at maybe like Liquid, who was very consistent but didn't win anything. So for me, that was like not that great. And yeah, then what else is left? Like for me, Heroic are kind of edging it there.
Yeah.
I
After
tend
you,
to
Matthew.
agree. Yeah, I guess selfishly, I was a little bit disappointed not to see Stone in Abu Dhabi, right? But of course, he decided to take time for himself, which we absolutely have to respect. Difficult time of the year as well, knowing what happened last year. But I would have wished to see Heroic in Abu Dhabi, and I would have wished to see them make a statement, because I tend to agree with Prof. I think they have been, and also we all suffer from recency bias here, because the second season is actually not composed of a million tournaments, like 4 to 5 tournaments. Pro League took a very big chunk of time at that moment. So out of these tournaments, Heroic have impressed me the most, and they seem to be on top of that power ranking if we are just looking at today. So they could take the cake. I think FaZe is nowhere near as bad as people make out or make them to be. I don't think the floor of FaZe is that low. I think actually their floor is extremely high. Even when they're not winning, they remain excellent, aside from the Rio debacle. And then silently, Liquid's been actually having deep finishes in events. Like, sure, we're not lifting trophies, but Liquid have managed to become once again relevant for playoffs conversations and deep runs and troublemakers for pretty much anybody. And for that, they probably deserves a tap on the shoulder. But I would go with Heroic with a little bit of a aftertaste of Abu Dhabi, not the full lineup.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing, right? And that is the unfortunate moment there that leaves not only with Heroic, right? We also know Navi doing that 6-man situation just to end the season, having those little pressure points available. It kind of does distract a little bit of attention from what could have been. But I look at this second half, and for some of our members in the chat right now who maybe I'm being very nice today, aren't I?
Is that my fault?
No, I just think now that I'm home and I've actually had a little bit of perspective from being back in Australia and seeing my family and not just being on the computer all day, I've shed a little bit of my bitterness and anger towards the people on the internet who upset me on a daily basis. So no matter how many comments they make about my head, it's only going to get to me when I go close my eyes and cry myself to sleep. But no, I am finding myself in a nicer frame of mind right now. I feel like I've been topped up with a good amount of energy, and even the way that I'm enunciating the words, I feel like myself again. So we're back in limbo. But Matthew, your presence is always a blessing. So it's always quite kind to have. But I think you're all spot on there, just because of the. I think that the second half also has to be framed with a little bit of conversation of story as well, not just result. And the Heroic story, obviously, isn't just isolated to the second half of the year, but in terms of what we saw come to fruition in the second half of the year, I think that it's a good story there and some good results and some good Counter-Strike, and to see it working, because I know that there was a lot of doubt on whether that style of Counter-Strike could be a championship caliber type of Counter-Strike. That was definitely a question I had, because of how quick it has to be and how on point everybody has to be in those moments, and to see it come together. And I'm not a Cadian hater like some people out there. I find Cadian very pleasant. So I like to see him doing well. But then the question for me is not about Heroic. It's about the second, third conversation. And then I go, okay, well, yeah, Liquid had consistency of a couple of grand finals, but Outsiders won the major. So how much do I weight the major? And I obviously weight the major quite highly here, but I think a lot of people, and I'm not talking about the two of you, I'm talking about our friends at home on the internet, would weight the Outsiders major win as less, because not only did they not enjoy maybe the way that they got to consume the event, but then the other based off the results of the event. But the way that I have to look at this, and especially with the conversation we had towards the start of the show, with there being fewer events, putting more importance on the events, you cannot deny that they played the best Counter-Strike at the event because they won the event, right? So, the major is the top of the mountain. So I think I think I'd have to put Outsiders in as my number 2, and then Liquid, because Liquid as well in those finals, they kind of went a bit limp dick. You know, they kind of went from, oh, this team that I was very excited about, to, oh, I don't think it's working right now, love. Can we try again a little bit later? You know, like, and look, you've got people saying Mickey Mouse Major, Fluke Major. Like, this is the thing. History, right? We'll go back and tell you one thing, right? We can go back and we can look at the Gambit Major, and you can go, yeah, Fluke Major. You can say that. That's fine. But those 5 individuals are major champions. And in that moment, in that event, in isolation, that was the best team at the event. And I have a hard time people trying to paint a different picture of history because of how they saw the event unfold, or because of the bad
Liquid
taste that
played
was
the
left in
same
their
event.
mouth.
They didn't win it. They didn't even make playoffs. You know.
Yeah.
If it's a Mickey Mouse tournament, then every tournament's a Mickey Mouse. They had all the best teams there. They just fucked up.
And for people to say things like, well, they overperformed. Okay, well, you could say G2 in the World Finals overperformed.
Yeah, sorry,
right?
you played great.
You could say
No,
by
but
the
it's the test of time,
EPL
then.
overperformed.
Yeah.
It's the test of time, you know. It depends. We just have to be clear on what we're doing. Like, are we assessing like a result? And if we're assessing a result, then I don't care that you think they overperformed. That was their level at this event, which is why they won in isolation, as you say. But then time is the greatest measurement of actual level of Counter-Strike. That's what it is. Like, and that's it. That's why a lot of people have a little bit of an aftertaste, with Outsiders, that we came onto Abu Dhabi with great hopes and then they fell mega flat. And that is a little bit of an issue. But then time will tell us where Outsiders stand. And if next year, next tournaments, they show up, then great. I think we are all always so impatient to have a final judgment on a team after one result, and we are just eager to see the next game to see if they dare lose a best of 1 to whatever team, so we can call that a fluke. Like, dude, let's give it some time. Give it some time. FaZe bowl out of Dallas. Ha ha! Joke clan. They're never gonna make it to Cologne. They win Cologne. Give it some time. Time is gonna tell you if a team is falling off or if they're gonna be here to stay. But we're all impatient. We all want everything. We want to decide everything. That's it. I'm getting grumpy and Chad is happy.
No, I think this is as well, though, Matthew, an unfortunate side effect of having era-defining teams like Astralis, right? Like, where these teams are dominant for a period of time, and everybody thinks that these teams consistently have to live up to this level of legacy, which is never going to be a consistent thing. And if it was, it would diminish what Astralis achieved. So for people to sit here and, you know, besmirch the name of Outsiders because what they
Our
view
Lord and
as,
Savior Jame,
right,
being talked shit about.
the thing that I want to point out for everybody playing at home is this one little detail, that the major is quite truly the only pure event that we have without any other bullshit of partner teams, or, you know, you get through from point to this, which are measured differently based off. This is the one event that is the 100% Valve endorsed open circuit event. It is, everybody has the most even of playing field. There is not a conversation about that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Nothing else is going to be the World Championship.
No, and when you hear
global
Nico,
finals are going to be World Championship.
Nico knocked out Outsiders from the event, and then the interview, was it with you, Matthew, or was it with?
Yeah, it was with me. Yeah,
and the question was thrown across of, like, what do you think for Outsiders here? You know, just how do you think this affect them? And I think he had a comment along the lines of, you know, well, if we just won the major and we got knocked out here, I wouldn't care, because you won the fucking major. Like, and that's Nico saying that, one of the absolute best players in the whole world. So if his opinion doesn't mean anything to your smart asses in chat, I don't know what the fuck will, right? You can measure it however you want. You can get out your tape measure, but I use the fucking metric system. I'm not here with the imperial foot shoved up my ass. I'm here with what we consider modern science, motherfuckers. And the modern science is telling me that the major would put Outsiders as my number 2 team in the second half of the year. So go fuck yourself.
Science.
Oh, players?
One more that we have, right? Or what do we have? Oh, the players.
Players.
Oh, damn. We went super deep on this one. Players of the second half.
Yeah, okay. Who you got on the list?
What do you think, Matthew? You can say it.
Can we? Yeah. I can say it, right? I can say it, right? I'm eligible to say I'm rightful, or people just gonna talk me as a Vitality fan. No, look, I think ZywOo had no competition at the end of the year. I think that's it. I think ZywOo's been the best. in the second season. There is going to be a great event in Stockholm, guys, where we talk about the best player of the world, of course. So we're not going to prelude that conversations. But yes, I do think that ZywOo provided the best Counter-Strike towards the end of the year. And this is even more impressive that the rest of the team kind of was a little bit wobbly at times. And in English, with all of the freaking asterisks or whatever it is, the name you put next to that, he still delivered like incredible Counter-Strike day in, day out, every game after game. It's like a quiet game. I would have games from ZywOo when I started watching it, and he's like 3 and 7, and I'm thinking, oh no, man, it's happening. Then I blink and suddenly he's got 24 kills.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen them. And it just has become normal. Like he's normalized it. And I don't believe anyone has the numbers to fight him for the end of the year.
I think what he maybe where he lacks compared to some other players is just like amount of big playoff games.
Deep runs, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, he had EPL, but then the rest of the year, nothing. Did they play in Copenhagen? No, they didn't even qualify for Copenhagen.
Yeah, they didn't qualify for Copenhagen.
In Abu Dhabi, they got eliminated early in the major, right? So maybe if you compare him to like I don't know, you can't compare him to a Shiro either. It's kind of similar, right? Shiro had the major, but he didn't have other things. Keiserato had a fucking really good second half of the year. But also maybe a bit stronger in the earlier stages of the tournaments than in the playoffs. So kind of comes down to a similar thing. It's like Simple played everything, but his level was not that great. Let me actually pull up just like the graph for Simple, because I want to show it to you guys and tell me what you
Okay, you're putting it in TeamSpeak just so I know where to click?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
I'll put it in TeamSpeak.
It's fucking hard doing this shit on a laptop, man.
So if you scroll down and look at the graph, it's like a 3-month sliding window thing, blah, blah. And you can see like where Simple's stats now are comparable to like only one period since he joined Navi, essentially.
That's September 17. Holy.
Yeah, in like September 19, where he dropped, where like it was the Zeus change after Starladder, right?
Okay.
Everything else is, 125 kind of. That was 122 is his like worst level. And this is now, what is it? 113, 114 rating, whatever. I want to say mildly concerning. Like we all know the situation around the team, but if you extract all of that and just look at the stats, we have been thinking about Simple this year as, he's been amazing first half of the year, blah, blah. But obviously, like he hasn't been, like this has been his like worst period in years, the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So it sucks. It sucks to see. I just don't want to see that. Essentially, like we all enjoy watching Simple kind of be Simple. But with all of the talk about like Navi and all the problematic, like Xtrfy isn't calling well, Bit fell off, SDY is not good enough. Like Simple is also not Simple that he is usually, right? So that it all comes together. A part of it is because maybe Electronic isn't calling, maybe. But the whole team is affected by the situation that they're facing. So that it just kind of sucks. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking there's probably like a full circle effect where you can attack the problem for different angles, right? You can say, well, Navi's fallen off a little bit because also Simple hasn't provided the stratospheric performances, but then you also get to think about in what moments did Simple actually destroy everybody, and that's when other pieces were also coming in and it was working. So it's usually it's a two-way street. I will just say when it comes to Simple, I don't have the slightest doubt in my mind that he eventually will go back to being the dominating god that he is. I think he's given us enough insurances throughout the years that he will get back to being unplayable. And even his lowest is 99% of the pro scene's dream. So that's kind of the margin we're working with. And I mean, literally, like
his rating now is like 1.14, and this is if you keep that for a whole year, that's like top 20 level most years. Depends on where you play, how much you play, and stuff like that. But like if you're playing top tier tournaments, tier 1 with a 1.14 rating on average, you're a top 20 player, which means one of the best individually in the whole world.
And that's his lowest. So
yeah,
there you go.
I think that's something that people like are very quick to forget because Simple's such a polarizing figure, right? People that go one way or another on him. You either love him or you hate him. He's like Vegemite, right? Or maybe it's for Marmite. I'm not sure where I nicked that saying from, but the point here is, and this is going for any player displaced because of the war, and it goes on both sides, right? For the Russians who are unable to go home, sure, right? They're not having their country fucking bombed. But it's affecting these individuals, and we need to remember this is the human element that we're discussing before in terms of the victory side of things. Well, in the loss, and not just the loss and the server, what these kids are going through, they're young adults, right? Your brain's not fully developed until you're 25. I'm fucking sounding like Joe Rogan on a podcast right now, but when you consider all of these factors and the way that can affect you, like I'm a testament of somebody who spent an awful long time away from home. Now, part of that was because of COVID. It's got nothing to do with the war at all. But to come home and to be able to be in your environment where you feel the most comfortable and where you should feel the most secure, it's done a lot for me just to top up my batteries. Right. So I'm not trying to compare my plight to Simple's whatsoever, but I just want people to understand that maybe you don't do a lot of traveling. Maybe your job doesn't have you away from home a lot, but this is going to take a toll on any human being, and especially a human being that is considered the all-time great in our game. Of course, there's going to be at some point, and you mentioned it there as well, Matthew, is the fact that when he is, doing his domination, and it's not just the carry show, there's other, when we know Na'Vi at the best, there's other contributing components as part of this team. Well, at the moment, the team is clearly not functioning as it should. Now, whether that's SDY's fault, whether that's the electronic situation, whether that's six man and Blade wants to try something new, it's an amalgamation of all of it, right? And this is something where it's not an excuse, it's a reason. Right, that's the difference, right?
Yeah, it's a factor. It's a factor. It doesn't mean like whatever. It just plays into it. We can't ignore it. It's not like it's not something we made up for shits and giggles, and it's like early game and now I lost. Like it's not supposed to be a part of the job, right?
No, but it's for us. It's kind of like, just to quickly touch on it, because Chad, you opened that door, and it's definitely an interesting conversation. But like the situation for the players involved in this war, right, is so complicated for me to articulate, because I do not think that I am capable of imagining what is going on. So that leaves me with very little room to talk about it in a respectful and meaningful way, because I have a principle of my life that if I don't know what the shit I'm talking about, I'm going to shut up instead of pretending like I know. No, but that's a fact, and it's been very complicated sometimes on broadcast, because you don't want to lie to people, but you also don't want to be out of your place. But what some of these players have had to go through throughout the year is incredible and incredibly tough. And in that regard, I think what Na'Vi has done as a team is quite honorable, considering the context. But for us, it is sometimes complicated to know how to talk about it while doing it in a rightful way, in a meaningful way. It is very complicated. So I'm glad that we mention it. And it definitely has had an impact on any of these players, very much for the worst. But it's hard for us to quantify. Like, what if that hadn't happened? Where would they be? We kind of struggle, but we can also not mention it. It'd be disingenuous, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So look, we're obviously going to slightly change gear here. We just discussed Simple. ZywOo was one of these names, and I agree. I think he's had a very good second half to the year, but this is where the spotty nature of the second half of the year comes into play for me, because you could make an argument for a lot of names having different kind of peaks that they could say, hey, I felt this guy was the best player of the second half of the year, for example, like K Serrato. I think at the major, and not just at the major, I think when you look at Furia once they're in the server, this guy, he is a legit star player. Right, I don't think he gets the shine that he necessarily deserves a lot of the time. I think Stown, we've always looked at him as this player that needs to step up for Heroic to be a star team and be accounted for. You can have a good conversation about his contributions as part of this Heroic run in the second half of the year. So there's a lot of names here that could join this list. I have a very difficult time pinning down one, but I think just based off of ZywOo and EPL. That's why I, it's obviously a team game. I understand that. But without ZywOo doing what ZywOo did, at EPL, then I don't know if they would be hoisting that trophy, right? So for me, it would probably be the Frenchman, the game, the
game.
one, the chosen one. Who was yours, Prof? Sorry if I
Yeah, I
missed
can
it.
agree with ZywOo here.
Okay, cool. We're in agreement. Nice. Okay. Well, we have one category left, then maybe a couple bits of news if we still have time. And then if we still have time, we can ask Matthew about suits.
I think
that's the highlight of the show. So
I also think we should finish this, and then we can go into playtime, ask him about suits, and just talk about like random stuff until until 4:30. So 15 minutes.
Okay, 15 minutes.
If that's okay.
That is fine to me.
Perfect. That sounds great. All right, gentlemen, look at this. It's a democracy over here. Now, this was the best update of 2022. Now, if you guys want to Google this, and I'm talking to you at home, you can just go to the CSGO blog and you can go through all of the patch notes throughout the course of the year, and go through and have a little bit of a looky-loo of your own. And you can see about 1,053 different updates for Ember and different danger zone maps, which interests about 6 people in the world, me being one of them. But the updates which I took notes on that I thought were quite interesting, and this is in no particular order, the update to the smoke bug, which Modesty had going at the major. They fixed that relatively quickly, did Volvo. The June updates to Ancient, where quite a few bits and bobs changed across the map in terms of spammable bits over towards Cave and whatnot. The Inferno bomb radius being made more deadly over range. The get pause command being protected, which I think was a fun one for me. I'm sorry to the surf community I know I upset greatly with that one there, but we didn't need any of that fucking cheese in professional matches. Anubis will keep as its kind of own specific edition. And then the M4/AWP, which could also be broken up into 2 separate categories there. But those right there are the ones that stood out to me across the course of those patch notes. Did anyone feel that I missed anything
I think
from the year?
It's not a patch in itself, but it's like a Valve update. I really like the fact that they put out the major rule set as a public document and they kind of update it. I feel like that's a really cool thing because it allows the community to discuss things, to foresee what's going to happen. I think that this is something that we encountered with the whole like EU RMR for Rio, using the old rules. It was supposed to be like 3 RMRs instead of 2 as it was before. And I think as people can point this out way ahead of time, then the TOs can also see this way ahead of time and be like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. Can we do something else? I think that's really cool and just adds a layer of transparency to everything. And I think you need to involve community for these kinds of things because otherwise you can't just like read through it and be like, yeah, this is fine. Like you're not going to take into account every possible situation that can happen. And that's why you need more people to get involved to kind of nerd onto these things. And there are specific people in the community who just enjoy this and they're going to find, holes in it. So I think that's really good.
For sure. That's a good one. Good one to add to the list right there. Matthew, did any of these that we've mentioned here stick out more than others?
Well, I think you were quite exhaustive with the list of changes. I think you definitely have a better memory. You did better homework that I did. I think that I wouldn't call it recency bias because yes, it was most recent, but the reason I'm going to mention the M4 change is that I suspect it to be the first update in quite a while that will potentially deeply rework how Counter-Strike functions and change the meta. And I like that. As an aficionado of the game, I like the fact that an update can force people to adapt and change. I would like probably a few more events to rate what is the current state of affair after we've seen M4 versus A1S and T side versus CT side. But I think it's important for our game that the meta do not become stale. And we don't connect and watch a game and know exactly what's going to happen. And oh, surprise, surprise, it's exactly what we thought was going to happen. And we move on to the next. I think it's great every once in a while to shake things up a little bit. And this is a kind of update that will do the trick. Force players to make a couple of decisions. Silencer or M4. Hey, you introduce a map that is seemingly a little bit of a T-sided map right now. That's also kind of a new twist. I like that. I like that. I like forcing teams to tag on new challenges. I think it keeps us all on our toes, and this is something that I appreciate. So definitely the latest update for me.
Okay. Yeah. And I also think with this ancient update they made, I haven't had an opportunity to play much of it because I've been away for the entirety of the time that they made the changes to ancient, with the CT spawn being dropped back and the widening of that site as well. But that kind of also filters into the conversation you're saying about the changing of the meta. Now, obviously, that's one of our newer maps there, but also from what I'm reading, like I said, I haven't had any time to play it just yet. People seem to think that it's going to have a bit more of a T leniency there. So all of those things thrown together can help continue to adjust the way that the game is at least appreciated. I just, and we spoke about this last week on the show, Prof, when we were talking about the M4. Like, I really like the change of the M4, like aesthetically speaking, well, of the audio variety, right? But in terms of the satisfaction of watching those moments in play, and then the ramifications that's going to have on the saving and whatnot. So yeah, even though Matthew's bang on, even though it does seem like a bit of recency bias right there.
I think it's just good. I think, yeah. I think Anubis is also like really exciting to watch in terms of like maps that have been added to the game. I don't think we had such a good map.
This has been the best in a long while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like comparable to like Dust 2 when it was returned back, but that doesn't count because it's the same map practically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
right.
I think actually the best update is a lack of an update, or the lack of removal of Mirage. That's it, because it's great.
All right. Well, Mirage appreciators here. We'll probably get around to talking about the Valve ranking and stuff in the future once they release a few more details on that. I know that was quite an interesting
role playtime, and then
let's do it.
Okay, let's go. I have a
Lucas,
question.
Let's get into it, mate.
What are we doing right now?
Right now we're rolling a bumper. Hope. What we're doing right now is playtime, Prof.
This is the question. I have a question for you guys. This is completely random, but it's an interesting topic that was mentioned by Jame, who said on a video or in his Telegram or somewhere that he thinks that like notes, papers on on desks should be banned at tournaments. This is like, okay, now you start thinking, what do you think about this? But I'll add one more piece of context. I think this was during the last Blast tournament. One of our photographers took a picture of, I think it was Raga, or maybe someone else. Essentially, someone was holding a paper, and we took a picture of him, uploaded the picture, and on HLTV, pictures are very high res, and someone pulled something from that picture and was like, oh, why are HLTV photographers leaking strats? I think it's kind of, it's an absolutely ridiculous claim. First of all, it's like, why the fuck are you holding those strats so people can see them? It's not like we fucking zoomed in on like purposely tried to do this. But technically anyone could do this with the intent of, leaking these things. Like you could take these photos and purposefully share it to other teams. So in a way, like it is a problem in itself. Like we could do that. Some other photographer could come and take a picture. Someone can work for Navi, come and take photos of like phases, strats. Like no one's gonna notice. It just looks completely non-sus. I think in a way this will happen, and this will force people to kind of move away from this, because it's just so out there in the open. People having like A4 printouts of their strats. It's kind of liable to be picked apart, I feel like.
I see what you're saying. Matthew, what's your initial reaction to this?
First of all, hats off to Prof for coming in with the curveball question. Didn't see that one coming. I didn't even think about it. I kind of had accepted that as a state of fact, right? The way I see it, any change of the game that elevates the skill cap and poses a new challenge to a player is something that I can appreciate. So if tomorrow you tell me that part of being a professional player is also to integrate as fast as possible information on your opponents and knowing your goddamn strategies, why not? Honestly, why not? I don't think the players would be happy, because you're gonna shake the whole world up out of nowhere, and they probably have a way of functioning right now, which they are getting accustomed to. But hey, why is that not part of the portfolio as a professional player to actually know every strategy you're supposed to do and every role you have in every strategy? And why is it not one of the metrics through which we judge a team by how quickly they can integrate information and how efficiently they can do it?
And to be honest, if only the coach can have, let's for example, have some papers, which kind of makes sense for a coach to have like a notebook or something, then that adds more power to the coach, right? Because he's the only person that can have this. So because coaches, I feel like we already have pushed them to the side in terms of what they can do. They have so little impact. So in this way, it's like, oh, they're the people that can have this. And maybe, you know, that's their role in the team, to have like written down things so they can remind people if they get lost.
Someone said in the chat, that's good memory abuse. And I'm like, yeah, well, killing
Good
people is good skill
memory.
abuse. Like, you know, being good.
We
at something.
never did that back. We would have a strat book. Like we would have a strat book, or we would have something online, but it didn't come with me when I was playing the match. To be fair, when saying that, the level and the depth in terms of the anti-strat and everything along those lines was nowhere near the caliber of what it is today. I think that I like what you're encroaching on here, Prof, in terms of, hey, if you choose to have notes in visible scenarios, the liability of what happens if there is a photo taken or if there is nefarious activities from other photographers from teams who end up snapping a shot, then that liability would fall on your stupid self.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because I know that some of these TOs, and you'll see it, and you guys at home probably don't really make too much of it, but you'll see a player who'll grab a drink of water, he'll finish the drink of water, and he'll whack it on the desk. And then the league ops guy behind him will grab that water and he'll put it on the ground.
Down,
right? And that's because, as far as the visual goes, they would like
shit,
precisely. So having, you know, all these papers spread out across the desk, I'm sure it's having a similar type of effect in that regard. But I don't know. This is one where I'm in a very split position on. I like the idea of the fact that if you want to have notes, the liability exists, but whether or not we should ban notes is probably a completely different conversation to have altogether.
I think the question is, I think Jame, if he wants this banned or like change, he should just grab a camera and start going around like the tournament area, just taking pictures, just being like completely obvious, like the biggest lens he can find, just like standing in front of FaZe, like taking pictures, like aiming directly at the thing. I think that would like change everyone's opinion and like approach quite kind of quickly. Maybe they need to use like code words and shit. That would be fun. Just make people's lives more miserable, because why not?
And I can imagine that there would be a conversation that's had, well, you know, for like the Russian teams or the fucking Portuguese, like the Brazilian teams of speaking Portuguese. Oh, well, you know, we don't speak their language. Well, okay, well, unfucking lucky, right? Like that's just the way the cookie crumbles in that situation, right? So I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you've opened Pandora's box right now, Prof. So you've given people a lot of things to think about going into the new year. You fucking sneaky bastard. That's something I'm going to have to think about now. But if people maybe are questioning, oh, why don't they have a tablet, or why don't they have this or that? There's nothing of any electronical variety allowed with these players. Maybe
which makes
people,
sense.
Maybe people sitting at home where they do the metal detector with the wand or whatnot next to them as they're getting into the booths and ready to play the Counter-Strike. But I don't have a strong opinion either way. I'm going to have to think through this one a little bit, Prof. Do we want to
No, we can move on.
Want to ask Maniac what he suits?
Yes, let's do that.
Well, you asked the questions. You said the topics.
I mean, this topic is obviously we're going to have the award show in January. So we're going to have a lot of people, players coming over. And we know most of them aren't really, they like their at max jeans, mostly tracksuits at all times, Gucci flip-flops. Comfy clothes, yeah. So they're probably not big suit wearers. So if you would need to give some tips and advice to these people, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people in watching the show as well that maybe need to buy their first suit for like prom or whatever. How do you get into this? How do you get involved? Where do you start? What are the most important things? And try to not give any shout outs to any specific?
I won't.
Because if they're not paying, they're not getting anything.
No, don't
that's what
worry.
I'm
I
saying.
never do free advertisement. You gotta
Let's
pay
go.
me for that. I'm really on top of things. No, we can keep it basic. We can keep it very basic. I think the first step is understanding that if you're not gonna do what we call sur mesure, so if you're not gonna have something tailored, you will need to find a shape that you appreciate, and any good shop will help you figure out what kind of cut you like for your suit. There are 3, 4, 5, 6 different kind of cuts, and I would suggest you just basically try that, notwithstanding the color. Like the color doesn't matter. Just try to cut and find out what cut you appreciate. And once that's done, and you know the cut that you like, then I would say that the most basic probably is to start with like a navy suit and like a light suit. And this is really basic. That's like your ABC. Basically, there are a couple of rules. Dark on light works, light on dark works. The contrast of color, really, it's very basic. You can have like a white shirt, you can have a navy dark shirt, and then these two you can combine with a navy suit or with the light suit. That's going to work wonders. It's very easy. All you need to do is have a pocket square that kind of catches on the color of the shirt, and that's it. Couple of rules: never more than 3 different colors on you. That you should never do that. So you can have 3 different colors. If you want to work in shades, that's fine. But if you go more than 3 colors, it goes into full craziness. So keep it to 3 colors. But you can actually, I don't think.
How many of the patterns?
Well, the thing about the pattern is that you need to be balanced in it. So don't put patterns on patterns. Usually, it's nice to have a little texture. So if I have a plain suit, then my tie can be a little crazy, and so can be my pocket square. But if I have a squared suit, then I'm going to try to go with something that's unified as a tie, because otherwise it's like texture on texture, and it's going to make you feel like whatever, you have a headache. I don't think the camera can see, but let me, like here, if I do this, I'm gonna just fuck up the production here. I'm so sorry. Maybe he can keep up with that. Let me just pull up. There we go. Here you can see that's my collection right there. So I have them by colors. Some of them have the pants with them. I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Some work as a jacket only if it's a little bit more casual and relaxed. But so you have my collection of suits with the pants that are down there. These are the different kind of shirts that I wear for work. And so that's probably enough. As you can see, I went kind of crazy in like the different kind of colors, because that's also an investment for my work, and I love that at all.
It's a good excuse, at least.
It's a very good excuse. But basically, you start from the ground up. Dark or navy is very safe. Light brown is very safe. You kind of figure out whether you like the brown on light or light on brown. And once you figure it out, then you can work your way in and have a good time. That's what I would say.
What are the biggest kind of fuck ups that people do in terms of like buying a suit, or like accessories, or like belts, shoes, like to kind of match it all up?
Well, as I said, I think sometimes we get a little crazy with the colors. And if, I don't know, you can take risks, but if I have, let me put it this way. If I have a navy suit and a white shirt, and I want to get crazy a little bit with a handkerchief, and that handkerchief is going to be gold or whatever, that works. Because I have 2 colors, it's very dim, and then I have one eye catcher. That's fine. But what I cannot do is have a green shirt on top of a navy suit with a red pocket square and a blue tie, because then I look like a freaking Picasso kind of art, and that doesn't work. So you want to take it easy and just work your way into it, right? You can get. I mean, the blue one, the aqua one, is a new acquisition for me. I had the lilac one as well. Like, I've worked my way into it. It's like the Kama Sutra. You don't have to go crazy with the helicopter first. Like, work your way in. Take it easy. Take it easy. Do the basics. Have your basics, and then get a little crazy and figure out what you like. Does that make sense?
Something important for people who might want to be on camera with suits and shirts and whatnot, though, Prof, is you need to be careful with the patterns because of Amore, which may or may not shop on the camera or cause an issue for the camera.
So small patterns and stripes and stuff like that, generally,
stay away.
Avoid. Yeah,
more solid colors are preferential.
So you Chad are a suit hater, right? You're the opposite spectrum, the two of you, of this.
I don't feel comfortable in a suit, right? Which is fine, right? Everybody can.
You mean comfortable, not physically, but more like you don't enjoy being in it.
No, like so as I'm sure everybody in chat is well aware, we all have different frames and different builds. And my frame, I have a big chest, right? Not because I do a lot of bench press, just because that's where I hold my weight.
That's because of a big heart, right?
Something like that. So when I wear, I have like a stockier torso. So when I wear a suit, I feel real boxy at the top and I feel real long in the leg. So when I'm wearing something that's like that's why when people have seen the suit that I wore at like Antwerp or at Cologne, for example, the pants, they're like more high waisted, and the pants and the jacket don't match. They're different colors. And I know that some people think I look like I'm from fucking the 70s doing some shit in Florida or Miami or whatever it is, taking cocaine across the border. But I felt more comfortable in something like that, right? I spent a lot of time in one of these suit stores, which will not be named, with a bloke helping me out to find something that I liked as my fit. I would love to be able to wear what Matthew and Yanko and stuff wear, but on my frame, at least as how I perceive it, I think I look funny, and that's the same, you know. And if I think I look funny, then I don't feel very confident. And if you don't feel very confident when your job is to present, then
Yeah, definitely.
kind of sucks a bit, right? So yeah,
I think that type of, you know, you're gonna have to spend some time in the shop, and you're gonna have to talk to people. I think that's
try and enjoy it.
Yeah, you have to go in. You can't go and buy stuff like you're buying a shirt. I mean, you can, but it probably won't be great. You're gonna go there. You're gonna talk to the person. They're gonna bring you out different things. You're gonna try one thing. You're not gonna like it. You're gonna try another thing. Then you're gonna bring back the first thing, and all of this is kind of normal. And yeah, I think at least here, most of the stores, even if you don't buy like a tailored thing, they can like do small adjustments. That's also a thing. And it usually takes like a day or two to get like, you know, a bit of stretch on the ass. I can't just close down the show.
Yeah,
forget about it.
I think we've reached our conclusion.
NIP. Okay, let's. What do you guys think?
Do you want to talk about the stuff? A lot of this is, you see, these are the questions of when people want us to talk about this. First of all, most of these are rumors that haven't been officialized. No. I know that a lot of them may come to fruition, but also, like, for example, I would have a lot easier time talking to you about Jota to Imperial than I would Head Trick to NIP, right? Because I could talk to you about the fact that Cello and Jota were together in MIBR and that they were a good combo, and the way that they played that A ramp on Vertigo is, I could give you some stuff, but Hedrick to NIP, guys, I can't give you a lot. I don't know what you want me to say. And I know you as an NIP fan probably want me to say, yeah, it's going to be fucking sick, but I can't say that in good faith.
We can, nothing breaking. We can talk about this next year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So look, did we have any questions for Matthew other than about suits? Did anybody get anything of
more than a suit?
There weren't some crazy good question. There was a question. Ask him about his drunkest post CSGO event party story. Like this, we're not going to talk
That's
about.
Not going to talk about.
But we did see
plenty of stories, but
I saw the video that Moses posted of you.
I know
dancing.
that's quite a that's a tempered one.
Yeah, but it's also already pushing the boundaries.
I told him. I said we have footage right now, and we're posting footage on Twitter now. This is a social dilemma that has been posed by Jason. He's drawn the first shot, and we shall see what the retaliation is.
He's walking the line right
He's
there.
He's walking the line.
Did he not ask for permission?
He did not, but I was very tempered. It's fine. It's completely fine. But I was like, oh shit, someone made a video. I didn't realize. I'm on Twitter now. Also,
I have a question.
Tagged, by the way.
I have a question for Matthew. Matthew, do you want to try? I want to get. It probably won't happen, and I know we've broached this conversation several times before. But if we create a large enough roster for an ESEA Open team, maybe, just maybe, 5 of us will be available and not in an event to play at least one match. Do you have any interest in partaking in such a venture? You can say no. You can shut me down here.
The interest is here. My problem is that when I'm not working an event, there is no way I'm spending an evening or a weekend on the PC. As I'm sure, as you know, I have other people in my life who would like to have some of the time that I spend in Switzerland for themselves. And it is a bit of a complex topic for me to say, yeah, no, sure, I'm back. But no, we're not going to go to the restaurant tonight because I got to play this ESEA open season with my buddies.
Have a best of 3 against,
Exactly.
I
So
don't know.
that's my issue. When we are at events and we have PCs there, that's game. Because my whole being is there 24/7 anyway. When I'm home, I have to protect the sacred free time that I have for the sake of my social life versus personal life balance, or social life versus work life balance, which I try to keep under control.
Maybe we could do a cash cup on a weekend or something like that if time
why
permits,
not?
or maybe it lines up.
So
We
if we
never
have a big
know.
roster, and I can if I can just chime in here and there, and we have a big roster, then let's go. But
I think
otherwise,
Yanko was
to get
keen.
impaled.
Now he might be keen. We can start building something here.
Yeah.
The pieces of the puzzle. We'll see what happens. Okay. Well, that concludes the final episode of HLTV Confirmed for 2022. Matthew, I want to thank you for joining us. You actually ended up being a godsend here this evening. Unfortunately, Striker, being unwell, couldn't join us, but we still managed to fill out an awful lot of time. Thank you again to Lucas for pushing all the buttons and making this all happen. We also had Dimitri a couple of times this year chip in when Lucas was unable to produce the show. A big thank you to Prof as well, who consistently is coming up and curating, first of all, the different topics that we're going to talk about week in, week out, and then has played a massive part in making, the largest part in making the live shows that we've done throughout the years a possibility. And thanks to HLTV, Martin, you've got the mix over there. We've got Nomad in there as well. I don't know who the bosses are anymore, but they're the people who occasionally talk to me. For at least, having the faith and letting us do this week in, week out and have a good time with it. And most importantly, thank you to all the viewers, the people who are tuning in every week to listen to what we have to talk about with Counter-Strike. It's been an awful lot of fun. And I think when I jumped on board and joined this venture, I didn't think that, sitting here for 2.5, 3 hours every single week, we'd be having so much fun and having so many of you consistently be viewers and listeners and enjoyers of everything Counter-Strike related. And once more, shout out to the sponsors. We got Xtrfy, we've got BitSkins, and we have N1Bet. This has been HLTV Confirmed for yet another year, and we will see you in the new year. Enjoy yourselves.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.